B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Baruch Hashem, great to be back. We're here in Sunny Isles, Florida, in Shaarei Tzion. Baruch Hashem, we have our questions and answers series. Hopefully you guys have some questions, and Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give me some answers to give you. Last night's shiur, Baruch Hashem, was a few people told me it was a very deep shiur, a little bit above some people's heads. Some other people loved it. It all depends, with all of the shiurim, I constantly recommend for people to watch them a few times. And most importantly, to get a notebook and start writing some notes. People think that I'm joking about it, but the thing is that if it's any time there's a serious shiur, you're not going to remember most of it. And this is not my opinion, this is the Gemara. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, or actually before I continue that, the shiur will be for a refuah shlema and zriza for David ben Nasriya, Doris Bajora, Yochevet bat Sarah, Yochevet bat Batya, and Batya bat Sarah, and all of Am Yisrael Be'ezrat Hashem will have refuah shlema, refuat nefesh, refuat guf. And also Levana bat Sarah, refuah shlema, refuat nefesh, refuat guf. So, many times I give people personal advice. People, Baruch Hashem, there's new Baalei Tshuva, Baruch Hashem, that Zachinu every week. Every week there's new Baalei Tshuva, new people from all around the world that are doing Tshuva, that are changing their life. And I always tell people, when they ask me about a rabbi, and I don't know him, they ask me, yeah, but he's famous. I said, great. How many Baalei Tshuva does he have? No, but he has 1 million likes. I said, great, but how many Baalei Tshuva does he have? Baalei Tshuva, how many people actually have Tshuva? He goes, no, he got a few people to put on tefillin. I said, great, that's a mitzvah. But how many people did Tshuva? So they say, wait a minute, Rabbi, isn't tefillin part of Tshuva? I said, it's a mitzvah. Yes, it's part of Tshuva, but it's not Tshuva by itself. Tshuva means that the person has returned to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning that person has changed their lifestyle. They were doing whatever they wanted, now they're redirecting their life to do whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu said they have to do. And eventually arrive at the conclusion that, interestingly enough, doing what Hashem wants you to do is what you want to do, after all. It's much better than what you used to want to do. Why? Because what you used to want to do got you into a lot of trouble. Like some guy came to me in New York. Bal minan, what tzarot people have, how many tzarot, how many problems people have. Guy, nice guy, poor guy, comes to me after one of the lectures. And he's talking to me, he's almost crying. And I say, hey, listen, I'm a good speaker, I'm not that good. He goes, no, Kvod Harav, I want to tell you something, but I don't know how to say it. He goes, what? He goes, I just lost everything. I'm like, what do you mean everything? He goes, every single thing I have, I lost. I said, wait, what? Over the last few years? He goes, in one day. In one day, I lost every single thing I have. What happened? Shem Yachem. Robbery / bad deal. But literally lost every single penny that he had gathered and toiled for 30 years. Now imagine you wake up in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning every day. You do what you got to do. You get yourself out of bed. No one likes to get out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning. Even after 30 years, you don't like it. You'd rather sleep till 9:30, 10, 11, 12. Hazak. Well, like college kids. No, but you wake up every day, 6 o'clock in the morning, like a rooster. The rooster is telling you, no, come on, go back to sleep. I'm tired still. You get up in the morning, and you get in the car, and you forgot the coffee. Then you get the coffee, then the coffee spills on you, and then you get changed the shirt, and you go back, and you go to the job that you don't really want to be in. But what do you have to do? You got to pay the bills after all. Even if they pay you $1 million, you don't want to go there. You'd much rather go to Tahiti or something, sit on the beach, do nothing. But you go to this job, and you deal with a bunch of customers that are ungrateful, and a bunch of bosses that are ungrateful, and a bunch of different things that you don't even like anymore. But, listen, every 2 weeks they give you a paycheck. So you keep coming back. And if you have your own job, you have your own company, oh, Hashem Yirachem. All the employees that you bought them houses and you bought them cars and you paid for their weddings and you gave them presents and bonuses they didn't deserve. In the end, what do? Listen, sir, this is my last day. What do you mean it's your last day? You've been with me for 5-10 years. I groomed you. Yeah, finally you're good. For the last 5 years I've been suffering with you. Kaparat avonot. You were terrible. Finally you're good after 10 years. Yeah, I'm leaving. What, you retiring? What happened? No, I'm going to Smith and Company. What? That's my competition. That's my nemesis. That's the guy that we've been fighting the whole time. He goes, yeah. You're going to my competition after I did everything I did for you? Yeah, listen, business is business. As I tell you, business is business, like you never meant anything to them. A few shekels, that's it, finished. A couple of green bills, finished. They go to the competition. And I don't go quietly. They say quietly. But what? At night, before they told you that they're leaving, for the last 3 weeks, they stayed extra late. Why? So you can get all the files on all the customers that you gave them so they could steal them and go to the next company. On day one, they're already ready. Suddenly, day one, they're already producing. How is it possible? Takes at least a few months. No, they've been preparing. They've been stealing your stuff for 2 months. While they're getting a paycheck. Meaning you've been paying them for the last few months to steal from you. And they just cash the bonus check too, usually. So if you own your own company, you realize eventually that all of those employees that you paid so much money for and you borrowed some money from a few people so you could pay them on time without even letting them know, just because you want to make sure that they're okay, they go to the competition. You own a business, you don't even eat sometimes, but you make sure everybody else eats, and you realize, after all, you got to do what you got to do, right? So imagine you did all of this for 10, 20, 30 years. You saved every shekel you possibly could. And for anyone who doesn't know, shekel is the Israeli currency. Now you saved a few dollars, and then one day, it's gone. One day, gone. Everything's gone. Now this is a nightmare of nightmares. Whether you worked for somebody or you worked for yourself, this is the nightmare of nightmares. Typical person starts crying, hysterical, a few times, doesn't get over it, sometimes for years, sometimes you can't even bounce back. So now, if somebody came to you, for a moment think about this, if somebody came to you, I'm going to ask you a question before you guys ask me a question. Somebody came to you and said, listen, I just lost everything. What do you mean everything? Everything, I lost everything, and it's terrible, somebody robbed me, or I did a really bad deal, or my partner stole everything, or my wife ran away with the accountant, and she took the money too, which, by the way, that's part of the story also, a different story. Ooh, types of stories I have. I could write 50 books just on the stories. Now, what do you tell the guy? What do you guys tell this guy? What do you tell him? You already, everyone here has a few, 2 or 3 things they're going to say, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, give the guy a hug or something. Or is the hug going to help him? How's the hug going to help him? The hug's not going to help him. He's not going to get his money back. The reality is you can't get him his money back. But you can help him by asking him one question. Along the way that you made all this money, did you keep Torah and mitzvot? That's the only question that you can ask. That's the only question that's going to help him. Asking him, do you have a backup plan? Does your father have any money? Can your mom help you? Can your long-distant aunt that hasn't heard from you in 10 years help you? Maybe the partner wants to buy back. All that other stuff he already knows. He already did the accounting before he came to you crying. He's not coming to you for that. He's coming to you for some divine answer. But instead of giving him an answer, you're asking him a question. Did you keep Torah and mitzvot? Yes or no? Now the person is usually dumbfounded. Like, what does that have to do with anything? I just told you I lost every shekel that I have. You ask him if I kept mitzvot. What does that have to do with anything? It has to do with everything. And the reason why, Rabotai, is because his answer is going to tell you how to respond next. When this not-so-old man told me no, he said, listen, I love Hashem. But listen, I'm not married. And I I didn't have anything to do, so I worked on Shabbat. So I said to him, the only response you're allowed to say, Baruch Hashem that that happened to you. Baruch Hashem that you lost everything. Baruch Hashem. Now this is going to get you angry. It's going to get him angry. It's going to get everybody angry. For a second. You want to punch me in the face right now. What do you mean? The guy just lost everything. Isn't there a mitzvah saying, don't celebrate when your enemy is down? He's not my enemy, first of all. But second of all, you have to understand the reason. And the reason is, the Torah Kedosha says, Mechalelea mot yumat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, when you violate Shabbat, it's a death penalty. Now, since we ourselves as rabbis or the Bet Din, we're not allowed to kill anybody. We're not the Sanhedrin. That does not mean that that death penalty doesn't apply anymore. It just means that Hashem runs the world. So every time a person works on Shabbat, even if he makes only $5 profit or $5 loss, he worked on Shabbat, it's a Mechaleh Shabbat. Somebody drives on Shabbat, whether he's driving to shul or he's driving to the mall, doesn't matter, it's Mechaleh Shabbat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I owe you something. What? I owe you a death penalty. And that's for each time you press the gas pedal. Now, you continue driving after pressing the gas pedal, ooh, that could be thousands, millions of times you violated Shabbat. Meaning that the only thing you can say to this person that lost all of his possessions as far as money is Baruch Hashem. Why? That means that Kadosh Baruch Hu loves you. Loves you. He loves you so much, instead of killing you and taking your body, he took your money instead. Now what would you like? If somebody told you, either give me every penny that you have, or your life. What demented person would ever say, no, I'll just give you the money. I'll just give you my life. No, keep the money though. I like that it has all those zeros next to it. Without your life, your money is worthless. When they bury somebody, everybody gets buried in the same little box. They don't put the money in there. The money goes to a bunch of people that are not going to care about who died and who died 6 days later, they forget about it already. Why? They're already buying buildings, they're already buying cars. Oh, Chazaku Baruch, you got a Yerusha, you got an inheritance. Wow, Mazal Tov. What Mazal Tov? I had a student, Miskin. He had one of these Erev Rav rabbis. He just didn't know yet. The guy, his mom died. So he goes to his rabbi, he says, listen, Rabbi, my mom died. If you come to the house, maybe give a little chizuk. The rabbi comes to his house and he starts off his 5-minute speech with, listen, we could all mourn here that our dear friend's mother died, but I would like to say Mazal Tov. Mazal Tov, you just inherited everything that you had, Chazaku Baruch, hopefully you do good things. The guy said, I wanted to take the table and smash it on his head. What Mazal Tov? You think I care about the money that I just inherited? I want my mom instead. Shem Elachem. Sometimes people don't see with their eyes. They see with something else. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees everything clearly. And if he took your money, you should say Baruch Hashem. Why? Because the money is a replacement for blood. It's a replacement for life. And that's why it's actually halacha that when somebody loses money, they are supposed to say Baruch Hashem. They have to say, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because, of course, I made some type of sin. Maybe I know what sin I made. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I forgot. But if Hashem took my money, Baruch Hashem. Why? Because it's either that or my life. Money you can always make back. If Hashem decides for you to get the money back, you can make the money back. Life you can't get twice. Finished. So, initially it shocked him. But then he realized this is a very, very different response that he got from the 9 other rabbis that he went to. He went for me for the minyan. And then he realized, okay, so what do I do now? I said, you start with tshuva. He goes, what about the money? I said, the money's from God. Liya kesef eliya za'av neum Hashem tzavaot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, mine is the money, mine is the gold. Everything is mine. You want me to give it to you? Give me a reason. But I took it from you. Why? Because you were making money on Shabbat. You were working on Shabbat. You're lucky I didn't take your life. Now, even though this is not pleasing to the ears, it's the truth. It's emet la'amita. This is the truth. Now, we're not cheering for anybody to lose. We're not cheering, chas v'shalom, for anyone to die. But we are cheering for the truth. We are always obligated to say the truth to ourselves, to our peers, to our family, in different ways. I can say what I say because this is my position. You have to say things in a different way sometimes. Somebody comes to you, tells you the same story, you say, oh, call Rabbi Yaron. You don't tell him, don't tell Baruch Hashem. Why? Because you're going to get a right one. I usually don't get right ones. I just get comments on the internet. You're going to get a right one. Why? Because it's your brother. He's going to give you a right one if you tell him, Baruch Hashem, you lost all your money. So you tell him, oh, you lost your money? You know what? I have a CD for you. It's called Hashem Took Back His Millions. Listen to this. Why? You're not going to be able to do it most of the time. The point is, Rabotai, is that you have to stick to the truth. Now, sometimes we have a hard time seeing the obligation in ourselves because we think that we did everything good. Initially, he told me, listen, but I'm such a nice guy. I gave tzedakah to people. I didn't steal from anyone. I was really nice to people. I say thank you. I open door to every girl that walks, even if I don't have to go there. I'm a nice guy after all. I said, maybe you're nice to people, but to your Father in heaven that gave you everything, you're an enemy. You're an ungrateful enemy. Why? He gave you Shabbat. What do you do instead of honoring it? You violate it. Openly. Not even in secret. So he's giving you parnasah, and what are you doing? Using that money against him. So it's hard sometimes for us to see the fault in ourselves. We like to blame God. Why did God do this to me? Why did God do this to me? And the reality is, Rabotai Yekarim, anyone that takes just a few minutes to think about the things that are happening in their life, the difficulties that are happening in life, you will always arrive at the conclusion. If you're an honest person, if you're intellectually honest, you will always arrive at the conclusion that everything is our fault, which means that we can fix it. If it's Hashem's fault, there's nothing you can do anyway. What are you going to tell Hashem what to do? He's Hashem. He doesn't work for you. If it's our fault, that means we can fix it. But sometimes we lie to ourselves. And before we start the questions, I'll give you a little small example that maybe will make a few of you laugh. There was one time an old man that wanted to buy his wife a present. You know, as you get older, the presents get stranger and stranger. You know, in the beginning, when you first meet your wife, you first get married, every week you get flowers, every birthday you remember 3 days ahead, you have jewelry, you have this, you have that, time goes by, oh, it's your birthday, you forget the birthday. Oh, it's your birthday today? Oh, Mazal Tov, honey, yeah, of course I remember, I was just kidding. I want to see if you remember. After a while, it's like, honey, my birthday passed 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I know, but come on, I'm going to celebrate you getting older, honey. I love you. That's why. I don't want to remind you that you're getting older, honey. After all, no, come on. What kind of husband do you think I am? Sometimes you get older, things change, but you're really supposed to not. It's not supposed to be. The passion is supposed to be, according to the Torah, just as good after 60 years as it is after 6 months. A person that learns the real rules of the Torah, how you're supposed to treat your wife, ishto kegufo. You see some of the tzaddikim, the way they treated their wife, you would swear they just got married 2 days ago. 85 years old, still walking around like they're mamash little lovebirds. They talk to each other in little ways, and they, flirt with each other in certain ways. Not in front of people. You see, behind the scenes, you see how people are. But one time, this old man wanted to buy his wife a present. He says, what am I going to buy? You know what? Lately, she hasn't been hearing well. So I'm going to buy her a hearing aid. I'll buy her a hearing aid. That's what he wants to buy her for her birthday. I want to buy her a hearing aid. So he goes to the store. He goes, yeah, I want to buy my wife a hearing aid. And the guy's like, okay, so bring her in. He goes, no, it's a surprise. What kind of surprise if I bring her? He goes, well, I don't know what kind of, how to measure it, what kind of hearing aid it's going to be, how deaf she is, I have to know. He goes, yeah, but I can't bring her. What do I do? He's like, okay, listen, go home. And as soon as you get to the home, say hi to your wife and see if she hears you. If not, get a little closer. See if she hears you. Get a little closer, and so on and so forth. We'll see how deaf she is, basically. Based on how far you can talk to her from. Okay, fine, no problem. So he goes home, opens the door. Good afternoon, Shoshana, how are you? Nothing. Okay. He gets a little closer, another 5-6 feet. Shoshana, good afternoon, how are you? What'd you make for lunch? Nothing. Another 5-6 feet. If you could give her a hand, please. Another 5-6 feet. Shoshana, good afternoon. What'd you make for lunch? Nothing. Wow, I didn't know she's that deaf. Another 10 feet. Shoshana, good afternoon. What'd you make for lunch? Quiet. Now he's already in the kitchen. She's at the kitchen. He's right behind her. Shoshana, how are you? Nothing. He goes right behind. Shoshana, how are you? What'd you make for lunch? She turns around. Soup! Soup! 500 times I'm telling you I'm making soup. Can't you hear? Meaning he's the one that needs the hearing aid, not her. He's saying Shoshana, she's responding, he can't hear. That's us sometimes. That's us. We think that everybody else needs hearing aids. We think everybody else has a problem. Everybody else is at fault. Hashem is at fault. He's responsible. He did this. He did that. And the reality is, Rabotai Yekarim, En Adam Roeh Chova Be'atzmo. Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, no person sees the obligation in himself. What's the cure? Torah. The Torah is going to be the mirror. You look at the Torah, you see what the instructions are. You compare those instructions to your life, and you're going to start seeing that you're straying away from the instructions. Once you start repairing a few things, you fix this one, you fix that one, you fix this one, you start seeing that some of these problems start going away. All of a sudden, the problems turn into doors. Doors you never knew imagined. And Baruch Hashem, you see miracles in your life day and night. And in general, your life turns into a fantastic Kiddush Hashem. Not because you don't have problems. You have problems. But you also have the solutions. Living a life with Torah is like taking a test with open book. Remember in school, well for me, I have to remember, you guys who were in school just last year, sometimes the teacher says, okay, we're going to have an open book test. That's like pretty much saying, listen, I'm going to give you all the answers, but I have nothing else to do, so just fill out the answers. That's what an open book test is. You have the answers in front of you. That's life with Torah. If you actually know Torah, you learn Torah, you comply with the Torah, it's like living life on open book policy. Why? Every problem you have, you're going to get problems. There's going to be equations. There's going to be complications. But all you got to do is look at the book. If you don't know how to look at the book, get a chacham. Get a rabbi that knows how to look at the book. Not a rabbi that just wants money. Rabbi knows how to look at the book. Give you guidance. Give you things based on a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That, Rabotai Yekarim, is one of the most important things that I found out in my life. Baruch Hashem, before it was too late, but definitely after a lot of pain. And I can tell you that finding the answers was by far the greatest thing that I've experienced in my life. When I first started doing tshuva, I started asking so many questions. I didn't realize I had so many questions. The more answers I got, the more questions I would have. And then I would ask more questions, and I got more answers. And I wrote every little bit of it down. And from the day that I started learning with my Rav, years ago, since that day, every time we talk, there's always a notebook in front of me. This is not my only notebook. I have a bunch of these. I have a whole library in my house, Baruch Hashem, of notebooks, of all the questions, all the answers. I watch, we learn, you have some of his shiurim. He has, Baruch Hashem, almost 1,000 shiurim online. Each one of these shiurim, I'm there also. I'm watching also. Sometimes I'm actually part of the shiur. Sometimes I'm just watching it like everybody else. But I don't watch it like everybody else. Why? I'm with a notebook. And sometimes I'll watch the same shiur, even till this day, when I'm extremely busy and there's thousands of people all over the world that need my attention and need guidance and need this and need that. I'll still watch the shiur 2, 3, 4 times sometimes. To watch a half-hour shiur sometimes will take me 3-4 hours. Why? I need to know the answer, but I also need to commit it to memory. And I need to commit it to my life. So when you understand that something is valuable, you take it more seriously. And that's why I always recommend for people that if you're going to learn serious Torah, you have to take it seriously. You have to write down things. And that's why the Gemara says in Masechet Brachot, when you go to a lecture, the main schar, the main reward that you're going to get is going to be schar alicha. It's going to be the reward for you going there. So the Chachamim say, wait, but what about being there? What about listening to the lecture? So the Gemara says, if it's a real lecture, if it's a real shiur Torah by a real Chacham, most likely you're not going to remember 90% of what he said. And even the 10% that you remember, you're going to remember like parts of it. Sometimes you're going to be confused with certain things. But Hashem wants to give you the full reward. The one thing you're going to remember is how long it took you to get there. 15 minutes, 15 hours, 3. In those days, they used to go 3-4 days on the road just to go to a Shiur Torah. And a Shiur Torah would be 3-4 days sometimes, straight. You're going to get the full schar, the full reward for going there. Why? Because you can't get the full reward for something you don't remember. But if you write it down, if you commit it, if you review it, if you study the shiur, if it's a serious shiur, you study the shiur, like you're studying for literally a life test, that's going to help you not only use that shiur the way you're supposed to, but also get a lot more reward and a lot more answers in your life. So with that being said, Bechavod, who wants to start off with the first question? From the back, there's a few new people. Everybody know all the answers, or you guys have some questions? Okay, Bechavod, right here.
If you keep on saying if you break Shabbat, you're gonna, it's terrible. But like the halachot of Shabbat are so complicated. Like even if you don't break it intentionally, like most people break it unintentionally.
Okay.
It is the same.
No, Chazak, fantastic question. The question is, breaking Shabbat, obviously we've learned already in every single lecture that I've probably done over the last 5 or 6 years. Every single time we mention a little bit of Shabbat, sometimes more, sometimes less, but in essence, everybody understands by now that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrote in the Torah 12 times, you violate Shabbat, you have a very, very serious problem. But what he's talking about is if you break it intentionally, meaning you go into a car. No one goes into the car unintentionally. You're going to go drive to the mall, you're intentionally driving the car. Unless you're driving to the hospital, and that's pikuach nefesh. If you're driving to the hospital to go save somebody's life, that's a mitzvah. Why? Because if you're trying to save a life, then Shabbat is put on hold. Not because the life is more important than Shabbat, but rather because the Shabbat is more important than life. How so? You put the Shabbat on hold so you can save the life, and that will allow that person to keep many, many more Shabbats for the rest of their life. So now, if a person drives on Shabbat, or smokes a cigarette on Shabbat, or works on Shabbat, that's an intentional sin. But if a person unintentionally turns on the light, he woke up in the middle of the night, he forgot where he is, he turned on the light to go to the bathroom. That's unintentional. He forgot it's Shabbat for a moment. That's not the same level of sin. That's shogeg. That's an accidental sin, if you will. Now, even though it's still considered a sin, it's not the same level of sin as the others. It does not get the same punishment. A person still needs to do tshuva, still needs to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm sorry, but it's not the same thing as the others. It's two completely different classes. Now, as far as what about if you don't know all of the details, like you just said, there are so many halachot. If you go look at the Yalkut Yosef, it's 3 books. There's the series of Yalkut Yosef has many books, but just on Shabbat, it's the biggest section. There's 3 books, 3 big books, 500-page, 600-page books, just on Shabbat. How many halachot? Hundreds and hundreds of halachot on Shabbat, of how to keep Shabbat. Now, even if you've studied it, you're not going to remember everything. So what about that? Now, if you've studied halachot Shabbat, you took the books that I gave for free in the last couple of weeks, and anyone that wants them, I still have some more in my car. You took the book, and you studied it, but you forgot something. Again, that's considered shogeg. But what if you didn't study? What if you studied, you didn't get to it yet? You studied, but you didn't get to this halacha yet. That means it's still technically accidental. You studied, but you didn't get to this law yet, or you forgot this law. That still technically falls under the accidental. But what if you didn't study? What if instead of studying, you went to the baseball game? You had a Shiur Torah, but one of your friends called you, like, hey, listen, you want to come to the game? No, I have a Shiur Torah now. I'm learning halachot Shabbat. No, halachot Shabbat, you learn tomorrow. Come to the game. No, come on. A-Rod, Sh-Rod, all these rods. They're all hitting. They're all, this guy's making $20 million a year. Give him a run for his money. Cheer for him. No. Come to the game. They're shooting hoops after. We're having a couple of beers. Maybe a few girls going to come. Get home for sure. No, come. No. Now, that person has a test. To me, it's not a test. Why? I care less about it. But Baruch Hashem, that's because I'm in this stage of my life. To a person that's just starting out, could be a big test. If he passes the test and he says, no, I have to go learn halachot Shabbat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give him a blessing beyond his imagination. But if he fails, and he goes to the game, and he doesn't learn the halacha that he needs to learn, that he would have learned that night, and as Hashem would have it, measure for measure, that Shabbat comes and that law comes to it, and he doesn't know what to do, and he just does whatever he thinks is right, and he happens to be wrong. Then the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, Shgagat Talmud ola zadon. If your shogeg, if your accidental sin is as a result of you not learning, but not learning because you didn't get to it, but choosing not to learn, then that accidental sin is counted as purposeful sin. Zadon, mezid. You did it on purpose. Why? Because you didn't learn on purpose. It's not that you sinned on purpose, but you didn't learn on purpose, which led to that sin. Had you learned, you would have known. You chose not to learn. You chose to go to a baseball game. You chose to watch X-Men. You chose to watch some new Netflix, something. You chose to play some cards. You chose to do something else. Okay, so you chose to do something instead of learning Torah. Okay, that led to the sin. That choice counts as mezid, which means that the tshuva has to be even stronger at that point. But again, if it's because you didn't get to it yet, you didn't learn it yet, or you simply made a mistake, that's a different category. That's not the same level of punishment. Either way, everybody needs to do tshuva. But again, there's punching somebody in the face, and the cop is going to yell at you, maybe even fine you, and give you some community service, and then there's murdering somebody. So driving on Shabbat is murder. It's actually worse than murder according to Hashem. Whereas doing it accidentally, that's like punching somebody in the face. It's not good, but it's not the worst thing in the world. B'ezrat Hashem, you do tshuva, you learn from your mistakes, and the reality is that eventually you're going to actually end up learning much more from your mistakes than anything else. Next question. Chavud.
So if there was a Sanhedrin, Bet HaMikdash, everything in Israel today, and there was police enforcing even halacha, they would treat that person breaking Shabbat worse than the murderer?
According to the Torah, so the question is, if there was a Sanhedrin, or better yet, at the time there was a Sanhedrin. What law, what violation is considered worse? Murder or Shabbat? Now, we have 10 commandments, and from those 10 commandments, all 613 laws come from. Now, in reality, the amount of actual laws that we have today are much, much lower. The amount of actual mitzvot that we can fulfill in today's world is less than 10%. First of all, not all of us are Kohanim. Second, we're not all men. Or we're not all females. Or we're not, we don't have the Bet HaMikdash. There's no korbanot. So there's many, many of the laws we can't fulfill anyway. But the few that we can is less than 10%, technically. Now, at the time of the Sanhedrin, at the time of the Bet HaMikdash, the way they applied the law is according to the Torah. Now, if somebody committed murder, their punishment is death. Sanhedrin will kill that person. If they have evidence, they have witnesses, all of the intricate details that need to be followed were followed. The witnesses, everything followed. He killed somebody, the penalty will be death. On the other hand, if somebody violated Shabbat, and again, there was witnesses that warned them, explained to them the violation, and he still violated Shabbat, just like it says in a parasha that talks about the story of Tzlofchad, the Mekoshesh Etzim, it's a story in the Torah. If somebody violated Shabbat, they also kill him. But the death penalty for the violator of Shabbat is much worse, and the ultimate outcome is much worse. How do we know? Because the Torah says that there's 4 different types of death penalties. The worst type of the death penalty goes to the Mechalel Shabbat. Someone that violates Shabbat gets skila. Skila is stoning. Stoning is much worse than fire or hanging or even killing him with the sword. Why? Because stoning takes a lot longer. There's a lot more suffering that goes into it. First, they throw the person off a 2nd-story building, which is high enough to hurt him, but not high enough to kill him. Then there's a boulder that falls on top of him. And then on top of that, if that's not enough, there's a bunch of people waiting at the bottom of the hill that throw rocks at him. It's a horrible, awful, worst type of death penalty there is. Don't try this at home. Now, the ultimate punishment is much worse, though. How do we know? Because it says someone that murders, if that's their only crime, they still have a share of the world to come. They could still, after they go to pay for their sin, they still have a share of the world to come. They can still go to heaven. But someone that violates Shabbat without doing tshuva has no share of the world to come. Right. That's the key. Don't violate Shabbat. Skila is not enough for it's not enough.
So follow-up question.
Ken?
Assuming the Sanhedrin, the Jewish caliphate, basically.
Mashiach is here.
So two Jews, one murderer, one Mechalel Shabbat, both are running equally. The police have an option to go after only one. Who should they choose?
What do you mean?
One is the Mechalel Shabbat unpurposely.
Yeah.
One is a murderer. Both
Right.
are running away equally.
They already committed the crime?
Yes. Who should the police run after first? They can only catch one.
Whoever's closer.
They're both equal.
That you have to. That the police will have to choose. That police have. There's no enough coming on a shayla like that. There's that they have to choose on that occasion. It's not a. I mean, generally speaking, it would be the murderer, because the murderer is actually hurting other people. He's a sakanat to other people, whereas the Mechalel Shabbat is a sakanat to himself. So generally speaking, you're going to choose the murderer. But again, you don't necessarily ask hypothetical questions unless you're in that circumstance yourself. Because that Mechalel Shabbat could also be someone that hurts other people. And other things, there's a lot more details that go into it. Next question. Yes?
Is there a maximum amount of time a Jew can spend in Gehenna?
Ken, there is a maximum amount of time, and that maximum amount of time is eternity.
What does eternity mean?
Okay. The Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, page 16b and also 17a, and it's also mentioned in the Reshit Chochmah and many other books of the Torah. But the Gemara says there are certain Reshaim that go to Gehenom for only a year. Now, only a year seems like, 1 year after I made all these crimes, not a big deal. No, those Reshaim are not Reshaim like we think Reshaim. Those Reshaim are people that are actually, according to us, they're pretty much tzaddikim. They just made a few bad choices here and there. But generally speaking, they're okay. They have to go to Gehenom for a year. But even that year is, will seem like eternity. But then there are people that have much longer sentences. And some rabbis will mistakenly say, no, it's maximum is 12 chodesh. It says 12 chodesh. So, if you look up the Mefarshim, what does it mean, 12 chodesh? 12 chodesh is not actually 12 months, doesn't mean a year. It's actually the name. It's the name of the place in Gehenom. Each place in Gehenom has a name. 12 chodesh happens to be a place in Gehenom. Just like there's a 7-Eleven. Everyone knows that 7-Eleven, it doesn't mean 711. It means there's a deli, you can buy Slurpees and maybe some cupcakes. That's what it means. So 12 chodesh actually means a place in Gehenom. Now, there are some people that go there for a year. Some people go there for much longer. What's the longest? The Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah says some people that are really wicked, that don't do tshuva, they will go to Gehenom for eternity. Meaning that even after Mashiach comes, and the world ends. After Mashiach comes, there's still going to be another 1,000 years left of this world. This world will end. Everybody else will go to Olam Haba. There's going to be an Olam Haba here for 1,000 years, and then there's going to be Olam Haba after here. It says even after that, they're still going to be in Gehenom until their neshama is officially destroyed, which could be millions of years. Meaning that the punishment, eternity, means eternity. It doesn't mean, no, it's really long, like 10 years, like 100 years. No, eternity means the biggest number you can count is just the beginning of it. Meaning that if a person simply understood what the wrath of a Kadosh Baruch Hu is, he'd understand that just like his love is unlimited, his wrath is also unlimited. And he's not trying to punish us. He doesn't want to punish us. But he has to have these rules in order to warn us for our own good. A mother is not yelling at her son just because she feels like yelling if she's a normal mother. She's yelling at her son to warn him to stay away from trouble. Same thing with anything else in life. The government doesn't give you rules just because they have nothing to do. Sometimes yes, but generally speaking, the general rules, the ethical rules, have to do with warning. Don't drive really fast, not because we care how fast you go, but because you're going to endanger yourself. You'll endanger other people. So in essence, that speeding sign is not just, this is why we're going to give you a ticket. No, that speed sign is actually going to tell you a warning. Don't go over 65. Don't go over 70. Don't go over 30. Why? Because that way you'll endanger other people. Same thing with the Torah laws. Hashem doesn't want to punish us. but he does have punishments in the Torah. Why? To warn us not to violate the Torah, because if we violate the Torah, we're in essence forcing his hand. We're forcing his hand not to reward us, we're forcing his hand not to give us what he wants to give us, which is all of the good in the world. And in essence, what we're doing is we're hurting society, we're hurting the public, we're hurting ourselves, we're hurting the neshama that he created in order to serve him. And if that neshama doesn't want to comply, then unfortunately that neshama will eventually have to suffer for it. Next question. Yes, Noach.
For example, today I had to rush to work, let's say.
Okay.
And I wanted to do tefillah, obviously, put on tefillin.
Okay.
However, I wanted to know what exactly, if I wanted to brief up my tefillah, obviously that's not like without tefillah.
Right, it's not ideal.
It's not ideal, obviously.
Okay.
But
what's the shortest version of tefillah? You're in a rush, you're about to catch a plane.
Whatever the case scenario is, it's just what can
What
I
do you
say
gotta
to
do?
be fulfilled?
Okay, so it's a very good question. What is the minimum amount of tefillah that you can do and still fulfill your obligation? Now, generally speaking, most people that are asking that question are specifically referring to shachrit. And that's because it's the shortest, it's the longest tefillah. The other tefillot, arvit or mincha, are generally much, much longer, and the window is much bigger to pray those tefillot. For example, if you ever, if you want to pray mincha, you don't have to wait for, and you have to go somewhere, you have a flight to catch, you don't have to wait for the minyan. If you have to go, as soon as it's afternoon, as soon as it's the middle of the day, there's different phone applications that will tell you exactly where the middle of the day is at your location. There's for example, J app, something like that, JCap, JCap I think it's called. But anyway, there's a few applications that you can download and will tell you exactly where the middle of the day is. From that time of the middle of the day until the Tzeta Kochavim, until the stars are out, until it's dark, you're allowed to pray mincha. That means that you have a pretty large window to pray mincha. Arvit is even a bigger window. As soon as it's dark, all the way until it's light. All the way until it's light. Meaning, if you get home, if you forgot to do Arvit today, you're going to get home, I don't know, by 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. You can do Arvit, no problem. Do Arvit, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes, I don't get a chance to do Arvit before I do the Shiurim. Many times, I don't get a chance to do Arvit before the Shiurim. I'll do Arvit at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, it's not ideal. You should pray with a minyan, but if the circumstance call for it, you can pray Arvit all the way to the middle of the night, till the night turns into day. Which, generally speaking, at that size of a window, you're not going to have a problem. And also because the actual prayer of mincha and arvit are much shorter than shachrit, usually you can fit that in. Now with shachrit in general, that's the one that usually people have the most problems with. And this is what you have to do. First and foremost, the obligation is to say Shema Yisrael. So you start, if you have, I'm giving you the shortest version. Shortest version, meaning that this is not, don't make this into a default. Don't make this, and this is what you're going to do. But this is, let's say you're really, really pressed for time. You got, 15 minutes. You have to do Shema Yisrael. From Shema Yisrael all the way until you finish the part of the tzitzit. So you're talking about 5-6 paragraphs. Okay? The part of the tzitzit. After that, you do Amidah. Finished. That's the minimum of minimum. You did those two prayers, Shema Yisrael, and you did Amidah, you fulfilled your obligation. Now this shouldn't be the default, but it is fulfilling the obligation. Now, many times, that's what we recommend to a new Baalei Tshuva to start off with. Many times we don't even tell them about the whole Shachrit. We tell them, just do Shema Yisrael, get the tzitzit, and then do Amidah. Sometimes not even Amidah, just do Shema Yisrael. Why? Just to get the person used to praying. Just to get the person used to praying every day. Put on tefillin. Takes you, 5 minutes? You put Shema Yisrael with the tefillin, Shema Yisrael, 5, 6, 10 minutes max. You finished. You put Amidah in there, add another 5 to 10 minutes, you finished. That every single person can do. Now, if you want to do more, you should. Then you go to Minyan and so on and so forth. But the minimum of minimum, you should do that. Now, what happens if you woke up really late or something happened and pretty much you missed the boat? You have to go catch a plane. You don't have time to, even the 5 minutes you don't have. If you get you pray 5 minutes, you're going to end up losing a flight and it's going to cost you an enormous amount of money. You may miss an opportunity, you miss an appointment, so on and so forth. What do? You don't do it. You go do what you have to do, and then once things settle down, of course, before the sun goes down, you pray. Now, what you do, you don't do the Amidah again. What you end up doing is that on Mincha, you say Shema Yisrael, you put on the tefillin, you say Shema Yisrael, and you also do the Mincha prayer as well. That's it. But you don't do two Amidahs. The only time you do two Amidahs is if you miss that prayer because of circumstances that are beyond your control, not circumstances that are within your control. Waking up late is within your control. That way, so you can't say it again. But if it's out of your control, something happened, I don't know, you were stuck in a subway somewhere or something happened that's beyond your control, then when you pray Mincha, you'll actually do Shema Yisrael, and you also do Amidah twice. Because the Amidah is the same thing all 3 times a day. But generally speaking, the minimum of prayer is the Shema Yisrael and the Amidah, and that's also the obligation for women. Women have to pray at least once per day. They don't have to pray 3 times a day, and generally speaking, most women will not have time to pray 3 times a day. But they do have to pray once a day, and they have to do Shema Yisrael once a day and Amidah once a day. When they do it is whenever they want. Whenever they want. Because they're not obligated to mitzvot that are bound to time. They could do it in the morning, they could do it in the afternoon, they could do it at night. It's your choice how your life is. But generally speaking, Shema Yisrael and Amidah is the minimum of prayers. Next question. Yes?
What about if you have to pray in the car?
Pray in the car? Why are you praying in the car?
No, let's say you rush on time. Let's say you're part of a camp like I am.
Uh-huh.
They make you pray on the bus. Like let's say we're driving to Orlando in the morning, we pray on the bus. If it's Thursday, then we don't have to do like Sefut Torah and all that, but like we
Okay.
just do like chakras.
Oh, so praying on a bus. Okay, so if you're able to wake up earlier to pray, that's ideal. Wake up earlier. That's really what you're supposed to do, is wake up a little earlier to pray, in your house or at the Beit Knesset, if the Beit Knesset is open that early, but pray that way. But if it's beyond your control, and you are on a bus, or you're on a train, which many, many people do, in New York especially, there is literally religious buses or religious carts within the trains, the subway stations or the trains from Long Island to the city, that literally every single person in there is religious. And they turn this thing into a little Beit Knesset. They turn it into a big Beit Knesset. They bring a Sefer Torah. Because they know they're going to be in a train for 45 minutes. That's more than enough time to pray. So that's what many of them do. You're allowed to pray, but again, remember that you should do everything as best as you can, which means that if you're going to be on a plane or on a train or on a bus, when it comes to doing the prayer, do the prayer. When it comes to Amidah, try to stand. But if standing is dangerous for whatever reason, if it's a shaky road or you could fall, something like that, then you can even do Amidah sitting down. It's not recommended, but you can. You don't need to endanger yourself. But overall, the ideal is to wake up earlier. If that's not possible, then yes, you can do it on the bus, or you could do it on a train, or you could do it on a plane. Many times you're going to see that anytime you go to Eretz Yisrael, there is a group of religious guys that pray at some point. They take down. It's sometimes they do the wrong thing. Many times they do the wrong thing, and they pray in the middle of the aisle. And they block everybody else for 15, 20 minutes. This is a Chilul Hashem. You're not allowed to do this. Like when you go to a flight and you see a bunch of religious guys standing in the middle and they refuse to leave. They refuse to move to let people through because they're praying. That's not a mitzvah. That's a Chilul Hashem. Why? Your tefillah cannot damage other people. You're praying to Hashem. You made a choice, a certain choice that, or your own life, put you in a situation where you have to pray on a plane. That's not a problem. Pray in your seat. Pray in your seat. You don't need to pray standing up. You can if it doesn't bother other people. But if it's going to bother other people, like some of these horrible stories of Chilul Hashem that you hear about in the news, a woman complained, there was a fist fight. Why? Because they didn't let them go through on the plane. They wanted to go to the bathroom, but a bunch of religious guys didn't want to let them go to the bathroom because they were praying. Because they thought that their prayer is more important than this person going to the bathroom. This is absolutely wrong. So again, the ideal is for you to pray in a Beit Knesset. Second is at home or some place that's stable. Third circumstances, wherever you are, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or whatever it is, you can. But you have to be focused though. You cannot drive yourself and pray at the same time. Meaning, don't be like one of these people. You're driving in one hand and Shema Yisrael in the other hand. That's not praying. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not praying. That's a problem. You have to stop what you're doing and pray. So that's again. So you're allowed to be driving, but not be the driver. So that's the other thing. Your focus has to be 100% on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Wherever it is, you have to be on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but make sure you're not disturbing other people. Next question. Yes.
Aside from fasting on Tisha B'Av, what else can we do to bring in the remembrance of the day?
A few things from tomorrow on. You should start, learn a little bit about the topic. There are many articles on the internet. There are many books, many midrashim that are written about it. If you have a Tanakh at home, then read Megillat Echa, which is in English Lamentations. Read about the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, what happened. There's a pasuk in there that says, Nashim Rachmaniot, merciful women, ended up cooking their own children. This is any normal person that says, what do you mean? What do you mean they cooked their own? What? So you realize that the famine and destruction was so horrible that this is something to cry over. Now, this happened already several times throughout history, unfortunately. And the point is that you need to learn a little bit about it. The second thing is, during the day, once there's Motzei Shabbat and the fast begins, you have to do certain things. But most importantly, you have to learn different items from the Torah that are relevant to it. You're not allowed to learn general Torah. You're not allowed to learn, let's say, for example, the weekly parasha. You're not allowed to learn unless it's Bechukotai, unless it's Kitavo, unless it's a parasha that talks specifically about punishment. During that time, you're not allowed to learn just things that please you. Like a lot of times you're going to see, and I talked about this yesterday, that there are many speakers that have changed the tone of Judaism. And instead of telling people that it's time to do tshuva and using this day to rebuke the nation and encourage them to do tshuva, they try to motivate people by giving you encouraging speeches. You're actually not even allowed to listen to this. During that day, you're not supposed to be motivated that you're great. That day is a day for you to commemorate the destruction and try to see how you can contribute to getting the world itself at large do tshuva, starting with yourself, fixing yourself. So the main things that you need to learn is, number one, what happened, and number two, musar, different things that you can learn in order to improve yourself. Those are the two main things that you need to do during that day, aside from fast and the handful of laws that you're not allowed to do during that day. We're going to have, B'ezrat Hashem, a lecture over here. Most likely, I'm going to decide tomorrow, but most likely we're going to do it on Sunday, probably at around 1, maybe 2, and we're going to go from 1 o'clock all the way till the end of the fast. So it'll be for a while. B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem will give us the strength to do it. And the reason why we're choosing that and not even earlier is because before the afternoon, before 1 o'clock, you're not allowed to sit on chairs. And I know that if I told you guys to sit on the floor, no one's going to come. It's just going to be me and the camera. And I'm standing. So after about the afternoon, you're allowed to, there's a leniency, you're allowed to sit on chairs. You're allowed to sit on chairs. So that's when we usually do it. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll do it over here. We'll have a long shiur. You could ask a million questions. I can give you a bunch of things to help you do tshuva, help myself do tshuva. But that's the key. Again, don't stay home and do nothing. Don't listen to people that are just giving you stories to cheer you up and make you feel great about yourself. This is a day that you can learn things that are not necessarily always punishment. You're going to learn a lot of things. You're not going to learn just about punishment. But this is not a day that you should pretty much leave it feeling the same. You should feel that day inspired to do tshuva, meaning inspired to fix something about yourself, about your life. So that's the main thing that you need to do. Again, most importantly, use the fast to connect to Hashem by lowering the materialism. Don't work on that day. Don't deal with anything in regard to commerce. just focus on you and Hashem. That's the main thing you need to focus on. Not anything else. Don't play basketball. Don't play Monopoly. Don't joke around. It's not a day to joke around. Just think about it this way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroyed his own house instead of destroying his people. So he is also mourning on that day. Why are you playing Monopoly? Why are you playing video games? Why are you so happy? It's not a day to be happy. So again, it's definitely a day to connect to Hashem, and I think we should be able to succeed with Bezat Hashem. If we do it really well, Bezat Hashem will bring the salvation much sooner. Next question. Chavod.
What's the importance of praying with a minyan?
So the Gemara says that Abaye, one of the major Amoraim that's in the Gemara, for many years, he did not pray with a minyan, and the reason why is because he was so into his learning Torah that he said, me going to the shul, taking 15 minutes to walk there, and 15 minutes back, and until they start the prayer, and until they finish, and they do chazarat hashatz, it's going to take so much time. I could learn more Torah during that time. So for many years he didn't do it himself. So it's in the Gemara. But then he learned himself about the significance of praying with a minyan, and he started praying with a minyan. Why? When you pray, you have to make sure that you pray with kavanah, meaning that you have full intention and understanding of what you're saying, and you're not thinking about all the mundane things. You're not thinking about all the things that are going on in your life. You're not thinking about what you're going to eat for lunch. You're not thinking about what's going on in the market. You're not thinking about all the stuff that's technically in your mind anyway. Now, truth be told, most of us think about a bunch of stuff during prayer. Sometimes we have a good, really good prayer that a part of the prayer we thought about Hashem, and a part of the prayer not so much. Sometimes we're fantastic the whole time we thought about Hashem, but that's not common. It's not common. So that means that you're going to pray, let's say Mincha, which is, by the way, just so you know, the Mincha is the most important prayer of the entire day. It's not Shachrit. Most people think it's Shachrit because it's the longest. It's actually not. The most important, the most critical prayer of the day is Mincha. So you're going to pray Mincha. And reality is that you're going to do Amidah, and out of the Amidah, you got 19 brachot, 6 of them were good. 6 of them were kosher. The other 13, we're not even sure if it's kosher. We're not even sure if you remember what you said, Bichlal. So now that's going to go up to Shamayim. Hashem is going to look at this like, are you serious? This is how you pray to me? Melech Malchem Lachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you pray to me like this? This half a prayer? How do you expect me to give you parnasah, zivug, good health, all of these things you're asking for? You forgot the words at the time you said them. How? Now, you send Hashem a prayer like that. It's not that good. You send Hashem a prayer with full kavanah. Shrecha. So what happens? So the Chachamim did a takana where they said you pray with a minyan. Why? Because they understood the mercifulness of Hashem, and they understood that if you pray with a minyan, Hashem loves unity so much that He will take the best part of everybody's prayers, because He knows His creation, and He knows that out of the 50 people, He's going to have one bracha that's good. He's going to have a half a bracha that's good. He's going to have a really 2 brachot that's good. He's going to take the best pieces of everyone, combine it as one, and make it counted for everybody, as if everybody had a full prayer with kavanah. So that means that everybody's prayer is being listened in Shamayim, Baruch Hashem, everybody's perfect. On the other hand, you pray by yourself, what ends up happening is that if you have kavanah, sometimes it's even better than being a minyan. But if you don't have kavanah, then you're sending Hashem like like kosher, but we're not really sure if it's really kosher. So that's the ideal is to pray with the minyan. But again, sometimes if you travel a lot, if you do business, you do all types of things, it's not always possible to pray with the minyan. You still have to pray. You still should pray. And you should obviously always have kavanah. And that's the reason why I said before, don't ever think that you're allowed to ride a horse or drive a car or be busy with something else while praying. When you pray, you pray. Same thing with Torah. When you learn Torah, you learn Torah. So much so that you should remember, you should know. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says in the Mishnah, someone that treats his Torah learning lightly, and he has a book in front of him, but he also has the phone in front of him, and he has the computer in front of him, and he has a few other things in front of him. And every 2 seconds he stops the book and he looks at the phone, he looks at the computer, he looks at this, he looks at this. In essence, he's treating the Torah like he's treating his phone. Same level of importance. He says that person could be bringing on himself the death penalty. That's how bad it is. So what do? You know you're gonna have distractions already when you start. Anytime somebody leaves the Holy Torah to go deal with mundane things, it doesn't look good in Shemaim unless they planned it ahead. Either by saying, I'm going to study for an hour straight, 2 hours straight, whatever it is, 15 minutes straight, and then I'll do the mundane things. That's no problem. Or, I believe it was Rav Moshe Feinstein said, what you should do is already have in your head that whenever there is something that needs to happen, let's say there's a phone call, or your wife calls you, or your mom calls you, or somebody calls you, that's officially the time that you already plan to stop. But again, that doesn't mean that you should stop every 2 seconds. It just means that if something happens, you meant to stop that way. So that gives you like a get-out-of-jail-free card type of thing. But don't treat the Torah lightly as if it's the same importance as your phone or as something else. So which means that when you're talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, remember, you're talking to the King of Kings, you're learning his Torah, you have to treat it accordingly. Same thing with how you go to a Bet Knesset. A Bet Knesset is a Bet Mikdash Katan. You have to come appropriately. You can't come, some people come to the Bet Knesset with a bathing suit. Or they come with tank tops. Now I know maybe it's more comfortable that way because you want to be naked, but the reality is, you're not a baby anymore. It's not cute. You're coming to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to come appropriately. You don't necessarily need to come with a full 3-piece suit, but you have to come appropriately. For men and for women. You cannot come with only like half your body covered. It's not appropriate. Remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here. He's not up there. He's here right now. It's not me. I promise you. Hashem is here though. Any place that there's Torah, Hashem is there. So that means that if you're going to go meet Hashem, you have to look appropriate. And not just act appropriate, but look appropriate. So if you're going to continue socializing, that's not appropriate. The job was at the ones that are socializing what I'm talking. Next. Yosef, you have some questions, no? Chava, next to you.
Why is Mincha the most important word?
Very good question. Eliyahu Navi had a battle with a bunch of Nevi'eh Sheker. In Torah, there's a story where there was a bunch of fake prophets. And these fake prophets told people to go worship idols. They said, no, this is instructions of Hashem. This is instructions of God to go to these middlemen. And Eliyahu Navi was a reincarnation, some people say, or just simply the same person as Pinchas. Meaning he was a very zealous person. So zealous that HaKadosh Baruch Hu never killed him, he became a malach. And he's the one that's going to come 3 days before Mashiach, it says. So now Eliyahu Navi was very zealous for Hashem, fought for the truth. When he saw that the leaders were all fakers, he says, okay, you're all going to come on your knees. You're going to come on your knees begging for Hashem to give you another chance. From now on, he says, it's not going to rain. And it happened. For 3 years, it didn't rain. Famine, starvation, no vegetables, no fruits, animals are dying, people are dying, everything. And Eliyahu Navi was hiding in a cave, and Hashem sent him food every day. Eventually he sent them a message, okay, it's time, Eliyahu, to go back. It's time to go back. Show them the truth. They got the message, time to show them. But as you would have it, it says, Reshaim, even on Pnei Gehenom, even at the gate of Gehenom, don't do tshuva. People that are really, really wicked, even at the gate of Gehenom, you tell them 1,000,000 times, you show them proof, you bring him Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Moshe Rabbeinu himself, you bring him? No, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. They got a lot of questions. Until the gate of Gehenom. Why it says until the gate of Gehenom? Because inside Gehenom, everybody knows the truth. Everybody knows it's not worth it to sin. Inside Gehenom. But until the gate, they're still trying to fight the battle. Still trying to win the battle. Point being, Rabotai, these wicked people, these fake prophets, continued with their argument, and Eliyahu Navi wanted to show a big Kiddush Hashem and show everybody the beauty of the Torah, the beauty of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the emet. So he said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Every one of you, fake prophets, you get a mizbeach, and you do a sacrifice to your God. and I'll do a sacrifice to Hashem. And whatever sacrifice gets accepted by heaven, that's who God is. How do we know it's accepted by heaven? It has to be a heavenly fire. A heavenly fire has to come and burn the korban. So, everybody is riled up, all types of things going. Everybody makes their mizbeach, they bring their korban, and each one of them starts doing their prayer to their idol, but nothing happens. They pray a little more, nothing happens. They pray a little more, nothing happens. Eliyahu Navi is just sitting there laughing at them. There's thousands of people, millions of people watching this thing. Eliyahu Navi says, no, maybe your idol can't hear it. You should say it louder. You say it a little louder. Your idol can't hear it. No, say it a little louder. Maybe he's hard of hearing. He's old. After a while of making fun of them, he says, let me show you who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. And he not only put the korban on the mizbeach, but he actually put a bunch of water on it, making it to the extent that it was literally a puddle on top of it. Now, to burn something is one thing, but to burn something that's in water, that's against nature. He literally made a puddle, and then he prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the time of mincha. At the time of mincha, he says, Hashem, please show everybody you are God. And a fire from heaven came and burned not only the korban, it actually burned the water. And that's why the Gemara Masechet Yoma says there are several different types of fire. There's a fire that just consumes the solids. There's a fire that consumes the liquids. There's a fire that consumes both. This was a fire that consumes both. This was the fire that consumes both solids and liquids. This is the fire of the Shekhinah, it's called. The fire of the Shekhinah consumes everything. Nothing is more powerful than it. So this is the fire that Eliyahu Navi did, and we learned from there that he did it specifically at the time of Mincha, because he knew that that's the ideal time to pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Good question. Next question. Yes?
Are you allowed to wear shorts to minyan?
Well, let's ask the question. We'll do a Jewish thing. What's a Jewish thing? You answer a question with a question. Now, let's say, for example, you're going to go and you want to get a job one day. You want to get, a job, and you find out that you can get a job that gives you $1 million a day. Nice job, hedge fund manager. Okay? You can make good amount of money. You don't even have to work on Shabbat. Good money, $1 million a day. But the only qualification you have is to go meet the boss first for 20 minutes. Now, if you're going to go meet the boss, what are you going to wear?
Tuxedo.
Why? Now this is what? This is a boss. He's just skin and flesh. He's nothing. He's here today. He's gone tomorrow. He's a nothing. He's just skin. Eventually, maggots are going to eat him. But we give him enough respect. Why? Because we like his money. We like his money. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here today. He's here tomorrow. He's here before. He's here after. He's here all the time. Which means that when we go talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we should dress appropriately. Can you pray with shorts on? Yes. Shorts and t-shirt, you can. Should you? No. So there's a permission, but there's also a recommendation. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu just heard your answer. And he says, wait a minute. If you're going to go meet one of my other creations, you're going to wear a tuxedo. How come you're not wearing a tuxedo to go meet me? Now, he's not asking you to wear a tuxedo, though. He's asking you just to be tzanua. Just to be appropriate and be modest. That's all. Cover yourself. That's it. That's all. Hashem is not asking you to wear a tuxedo. You don't have to wear a three-piece suit. You just have to be tzanua. You have to be modest. You have to be appropriate. That's it. That's all Hashem is asking you to do. And that's why it's very important to know that extra 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes it's going to take you to put on a sweatshirt or a dress shirt and long pants, it's worth it. Why? Because it simply shows HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you know who you're dealing with. Next question. Yes?
Going back to what you said about the prayer, when you have like thoughts in your head that, let's say, quarter of them were fulfilled, right?
Okay.
What if I have inappropriate thoughts?
You're going to have inappropriate thoughts.
And it comes to a point where like, I just feel bad praying when I have the thought in the back of my head.
So that means that the Yetzer Hara has won twice. Yetzirah 1 first, there's a malach named Patot. Patot comes from the milah pitui. Pitui means to entice. And this patot is going to constantly try to entice you to look at inappropriate things. If you fail, there is one of the damages is that thought is going to be in your mind, and that thought is going to be retracted, and you're going to think about it at the most inappropriate times. One of those inappropriate times is when you're praying to Hashem. So we've already failed to the Yetzirah once by looking at it, but now it's a time of praying. Now Hashem says, I want you to pray. He doesn't want you to have bad thoughts, but this is an outcome of your actions. So what do? You continue praying. And you work on it harder to continue praying and to not look. And use that embarrassing moment as a reason for you to do tshuva. Now if you're learning but you have inappropriate thoughts, or simply you have inappropriate thoughts, there is a pasuk. There's a couple of psukim from the book of Zechariah and also from different parts from Tehillim 45:3 and then Zechariah I think 2:13. But I could double check later. Those two psukim, you say them, and generally speaking, if you're a relatively normal person, if you say those psukim with kavanah, it'll remove all of these garbage thoughts out of your head for that time. Not permanently, just for that time. So it's good to use those psukim. I have them on my shtendel. I have them, I hand wrote them, I put it on my shtendel. Pretty much they're constantly in front of me. Why? Because it happens. It happens. Sometimes it's not even necessarily imada stuff. Sometimes you're thinking about stuff that's not, inappropriate. Not because it's imada, it's inappropriate not to have it here. You're thinking about the bills. Like what you're thinking about. You're talking to Hashem, you're thinking about bills right now. You're thinking about how cute your kid is. Okay, he's cute, but you're talking to Hashem right now. Ribono shel olam. It's not a time to think about your kids. So sometimes you need to say these psukim. So you should have them handy. So that's something. But either way, never ever think that you have an excuse not to pray, because that would allow the Yetzirah to win twice. He's already won once by getting you to look. Twice would be to discourage you from doing tshuva, and to do tshuva you have to pray. So continue praying even if you have those thoughts, but use that embarrassing moment as a encouragement to do tshuva. Next question. The ladies usually have 3-4 questions. Today they're on strike. Khalid, yes.
So when your Yetzirah is going full blast,
Okay.
and then you have the Satan coming ready to sabotage you for the day.
Okay.
What are good ways to overcome that test?
When the Yetzirah comes to attack you, the Gemara in Masechet Brachot says that first you should take a Sefer Torah, some type of book that you have, and start learning. The deeper the Torah, the better. So if you're already at a level where you're learning Gemara, open a Gemara anywhere and just start reading. If you're not at that level, you're at a level where you're reading Chumash only, no problem. Open the Chumash, start learning. If that's even too high for you, you don't even own a Chumash, no problem. Get another book. Get a Mesilat Yesharim, some Musar book that you have. You don't have that either, then go on my app or go on the YouTube, type my name, first lecture that comes up, press play. Or just join our WhatsApp group. Text message 917-468-234, that's my personal number. Say, please add me to the WhatsApp group. I'm going to ask you a few questions to make sure you're not a missionary, because many missionaries attack our groups. I'm going to ask you your beliefs because I don't know who you are. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You answer those 5 questions. I'm going to add you to the WhatsApp group. That WhatsApp group is simply a way for you to have a little bit of learning every day, because every day we post different short clips, 5, 10, 15-minute clips, along with updates and these long shulim in that group, which pretty much means that all you need to do, you don't even need to go to YouTube or anywhere else. You just go to that WhatsApp. You go first, go to that group, press play on the first lecture you see. Don't think, oh, am I interested, not interested. You already have Yetzirah. It's not enough time. Just think of it as the Malach HaMavet right now has an axe on top of your neck. You let it keep going, eventually it's going to go through it. You're going to fall. So just press play on any, even if you saw it already. Just press play. Get your mind out of the dump as soon as possible. Treat it as if it's pikuach nefesh. As soon as you're thinking inappropriate thoughts, treat it as if it's pikuach nefesh, meaning a life risk, because it really is. Your neshama is at risk. If you're not going to my shiur or to some Sefer Torah, for sure you're going somewhere else. and it's not going to be a good place. So press play as soon as possible. If you pressed play, you read the book, and it still didn't work, say Shema Yisrael out loud. Ask Hashem for mercy. Say the whole pasuk, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. You're allowed to say that pasuk as many times as you want. It's a pasuk in the Torah. Ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help. Ask him for mercy to soften your Yetzirah, to get the Yetzirah away. If that doesn't work, then go back to YouTube. Press Yaron Reuven. Gehenom. Press play. Why? It'll teach you about Gehenom. Once you learn about Gehenom, I promise you you're not going to want to sin ever again. Why? You're going to learn what happens, but don't go in the beginning. Beginning is a little boring in the beginning. I don't talk about the real details. Go straight to like an hour into it. Hour, 2 hours into it. Go straight. Fast forward 2 hours in. Or definitely after 2 hours, it gets really delicious. Go over there. I promise you you're not going to want to sin. You're not going to want to sin. But that's it, Rabotai. That's what the Gemara says. Think about the day you're going to die. Why? Once we think about the day we're going to die, we're going to see a Kadosh Baruch Hu, we're going to have to pay the bill for all these things. Who wants to sin anymore? That's the only way to get the Yetzirah out of your mind. It's the only way. It's this is the instruction from the Torah. But remember, the only reason the Yetzirah is attacking you as often as he's attacking you specifically with the issues of znut, modesty, and things of that nature is because you don't have enough Torah already in you. And the Rambam writes in Halacha in Ilchot Deot, he says the only person that sins, wasting seed and promiscuity, is simply somebody with an empty mind. What does it mean, empty mind? He learned a few things. He went to a few shurim. It doesn't literally mean it's zero. It means it's not enough. You don't learn enough Torah. Because if you learn enough Torah, you'd constantly be thinking about Torah. You'd constantly be thinking. Even though at work, you're working. You do your job. But you start looking at things based on how does it apply to Torah. Customer came. He forgot $20 on the shelf. Do I have to return it to him or do I not have to return? What does Torah say? Customer overpaid you. Can I return to him? No, return to him. The customer is immodest. Do I still service her or do I go somewhere else and let somebody else take the customer? Hey, the boss just paid you, but he underpaid you. Do I tell him something or do I not tell him something? You know, constantly, if you learn enough Torah, eventually, everything in your world, you connect to Torah. Everything in your world, you connect to Torah. Even if it's just a basic mundane job. Basic mundane job. There's a million different ways you connect everything to Torah. So the more Torah you have, the more full your mind is, the less time it has to sin. The more you're thinking about sinning, that means that you're missing Torah. And that's what the Rambam says. It's an empty mind. It's not an insult, it's a reality. And it's just an encouragement for us to learn Torah. Somebody actually sent me a question today. And he said, listen, I'm having all of these anxiety and, I'm constantly anxious about things and have all these different thoughts. What should I do? So,
In regards to
what should I do about these thoughts? He's having all types of thoughts about, immodest stuff. And he's constantly anxious. He's worried about whether he's going to pass the medical exam. He's worried about whether he's going to get a job one day. He's worried about stuff constantly. People are just anxious sometimes. So he asked me, what should I do? What do you answer him, Noah?
First of all, emunah, just keep pushing through it. Second of all, just keep learning. Because the more you learn.
So you answered already the second one. So when I asked the question, you answered already. I asked the question. You assumed that he learned. You assumed that he learned, right? Because he's asking Rabbi a question. That's assuming that he's learning the Rabbi stuff. Well, after you know enough people, you realize that the more they learn, the less questions they have usually. So what happens? So I ask, how much time do you learn Torah every day? He said, nothing. How do you expect not to be anxious, not to have these thoughts if you're not learning Torah? It's the only cure there is. You have to learn Torah every day. You have to start learning. He was a smart guy. He's learning to be a doctor or something. Said, with a brain like that, you should be learning at least a couple hours a day. If that's too much for you to get started, then at least an hour a day, half hour in the morning, half hour at night. But you have to learn every day. So it was kind of hard for him to realize, I have to change. So he's like, maybe it's because I watch movies. So I said I should have asked two questions, not one. So I said, not only can you learn more than an hour a day, but how do you expect to not have these inappropriate thoughts if you're watching Goal Nif, if you're watching disgusting stuff on the screen? Every single person on TV or the movie screen is immodest. How do you expect not to have filthy thoughts? How? What do you think? It just goes away? You're going to watch a movie. You're going to watch the news. You're going to watch stuff on the internet. 100% you're going to have filthy, disgusting thoughts constantly. You're watching a movie, that is spiritual cancer. You're simply, instead of taking the chemo, you're taking the cancer. That's what you watch TV, you watch the news, all of these women that don't wear clothes, and they're the casters today. You watch the commercials on the sports, you watch sports, Hashem Yachem, you watch movies, Hashem Yachem. We're not even talking about the blue movies, that type of stuff. I'm talking about just regular movie. You watch any movie that's in the movie theater right now. 100% you're going to have filthy, disgusting thoughts in your head constantly. 100% you're never going to be able to do full tshuva. 100% you're never going to be able to stop wasting seed even. Why? How? How do you stop if you're constantly seeing somebody naked? How? How do you stop? What, you're a new human being? Yeah, that's it. Which means, as long as you're watching this filth, you're going to have that stuff in your mind. Which means you have to be strict. So not only do you benefit by preserving yourself and not watching it, but also now you also just found out that you have a lot more time than you thought. Instead of watching movies for 2-3 hours a day, now you can learn Torah for 2-3 hours a day. Without even changing your schedule. All you're doing is just, instead of wasting your time on a movie, you spend your time and invest it on learning Torah. So you actually have more time. So that's the key. The key is to know that if we really dissect our own situations, we'll realize that we could all do a little bit more. All of us could do a little bit more. All of us can improve a little bit more. No one is telling you that you need to stop everything right now and start learning 20 hours a day or 22 hours a day like the Gaon Mivilna. Okay, but you can still have a normal life, you can still work, you can still go to school, you can still do all the basic things you need to do, but you need to do it alongside learning the Torah. If you're going to do it alongside learning the Torah, everything you do will be blessed. If you don't, and the Torah is going to become secondary to you, then simply said, you're not going to have the blessing that you want, you're not going to be able to do the tshuva you need to do. And then you're going to come to me, at some future days, like, Rabbi, I just lost everything. Well, no. What do you mean you just lost everything? You've been losing. It's just that Hashem's signs are getting, worse and worse. So, tshuva is not something that takes overnight. It's something that you increase and improve on a day-to-day basis. But you have to be real with yourself. You have to know that there's certain things that you're going to do that are guaranteed failure. They're guaranteed spiritual cancer. All of these movies, these shows, these TV shows, these sports, all that stuff, it's all tuma. It's all impurity. You're going to continue watching it? Listen, it's your life. You choose to do whatever you want with your life. But you're guaranteed that you're going to continue damaging your soul. So even if you learn Torah while watching movies, meaning, okay, you have 2 hours a day, you learn Torah. You're learning even the Shas. But you spend 2 hours a day watching movies or sports or whatever, it's still not going to work. You're still going to end up sinning. Why? Because even though you have a lot of holiness, you're learning Gemara, you're eventually going to finish the Shas, everything. Problem is, you learn 2 hours. Pure Kedusha. Amazing. Just the best of the best. But then you put a bunch of feces on it. So yeah, there's Kedusha there. But it's disgusting. It's constant. It's full of disgusting stuff. Do you understand? That's the key. So yes, it's good to learn Torah. Chazaku Baruch for learning Torah, but don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. So you have to be strict with yourself. That's the only way. Anyone that tells you otherwise is simply lying to you, or they're just a sinner themselves and they're not willing to do tshuva. Many of these rabbis that constantly talk about the sports and they say, oh yeah, did you guys see the game, all that stuff? That's not a rabbi. It's not a rabbi. You shouldn't even go to that kila. You shouldn't pray with him. Why? If he's watching sports, he's not a rabbi. That's what the Yevanim are doing. The Greeks are doing. The people that destroyed the Bet HaMikdash are doing. So again, to play sports is different than watching sports. You want to play sports for exercise during the week, no problem. As long as it's a modest setting and you're not with a bunch of cheerleaders or something like that, no problem. You want to exercise, no problem, you should even. But to go follow sports, spend your time and energy, all this stuff, seeing the cheerleaders, seeing all the Modesty, the commercials, all that stuff, you're simply ruining yourself. And you're not going to allow yourself to complete your tshuva. Yes?
Yeah, about what you said about sports, watch movies. All I do is watch sports, and I don't see it as a bad thing. I feel like it's better than watching movies and going to the theaters and stuff, you know?
Yes, זה נבלה, זה טרפה. There's two types of unkosher stuff. One non-kosher is for an animal to be kosher, you have to slaughter it a kosher way, right? But if you slaughter the animal non-kosher way, you messed up. You messed up. So that's trefa. Not allowed to eat it. You could sell it to the Arabs. It's still halal, but it's not kosher. You're not allowed to eat it. But then there's a nevela. Nevela is an animal died by itself. Some car hit it. Some truck hit it. It died. Even if it's a cow, you're still not allowed to eat it. Why? Because it died. If it died by a sickness, it's not allowed to eat. Even if it's a kosher animal, but it's not kosher. It didn't die a kosher way. It has to die. Which means there are two types of non-kosher. So yes, the movies are probably more non-kosher as far as the things that you're seeing. But the sports are also non-kosher. This ze nevela, ze trefa. They're both non-kosher. They're both not good. And one of the biggest reasons why to watch sports is a very, very big problem is, number one, is because first and foremost, you're not just watching the sport one time and you're finished. Okay? It's usually you're watching a whole season. It's an obsession. It consumes your time. It consumes your mind. You're talking about the game after it. You exchange your opinion with your friends. Or what do you think of LeBron? Or what do you think of this guy? Or what do you think of that guy? Oh, can you really believe they paid him $20 million? Can you believe this guy just left the team after everything they did for him? Your whole life becomes this sport. Your whole life is this sport. So it's an obsession. It's not that you watched the sport for an hour and then you left. No, it's your whole life. That's why people ask me all the time, are you still in the market? I say no. Aside from the fact that I don't have any money, even if I had money, I wouldn't go back in the market. I wouldn't back. Say, if I give you a bunch of money, a bunch of people want to give me a bunch of money to go trade. I said, I don't want it. He said, yeah, but you can make a lot of money. I said, yeah, but I don't want it. So why not? You can make a lot of money. You don't have any money. It's a solution. I said, I don't want it. I said, why? You could still do kiruv. Just trade for me for an hour a day, 2 hours a day. What's the big deal? I said, you can't. You can't trade for an hour a day. Yet the trading itself can take place even 5 minutes a day. But to do it well, it consumes your life. You have to think about it and talk about it and watch it and review it and analyze it the whole day. It's a consuming life. You can't just do it for an hour a day and finished. Same thing with sports. You can't just watch the game one time and you're finished. It consumes your life. Which means that even when you're learning Torah, you're still thinking about some guy that makes $20 million a year and how great the way he throws a ball is. You're still thinking about that. You're still thinking about some guy that kicked the ball into a net and how amazing of a human being he is because he did a flip after it. You're still thinking about that stuff. So it consumes your life. So like I said, ze nevela, ze trefa. This is not kosher, that's not kosher. You want to do it, it's your choice. But it's not kosher. Yes?
Question not related to this topic.
Okay.
What if science discovers a fish that has scales but no fins?
If science discovers a fish that has scales and no fins,
The Gemara says there's no such fish exists.
right?
So what if one's found out?
It can't.
What if?
It can't. There's no such reality. It's like saying, what if there's no God? There's no such reality. For anyone that believes in the Torah and understands what the Torah really is, there is no such reality. There is no such reality. Now I'm going to give you a fast forward. You're going to go on the internet and you're going to find something. You're going to find a fish that people say in many, many websites, look, this fish has no fins, but it has scales. Look! But guess what? After further investigation, they found out that this special fish has a unique defense mechanism. Does anybody know? Everybody knows what defense mechanism is? Defense mechanism means it's something that a species does to defend itself. So for example, you look at a porcupine from far away, no problem. He's hanging out, he's chilling. You get close to him, all of a sudden, all the vines come out. You get a little closer, they start shooting at you. You look at a snake on TV, he's doing whatever he wants. You get close to him, most likely he's biting you. Defense mechanism. Some have poison, some have spine, and so on and so forth. This certain types of animals, if as soon as they die, they poison their own skin. Meaning, if you eat them, you die. But while they're alive, it's not poisonous. While they're alive, it's not poisonous. But as soon as they die, they literally poison their own bodies. This specific fish, I forgot the name of it, but this specific fish has a unique defense mechanism. What is this unique defense mechanism? As soon as you take it out of water, his fins come off. It releases his fins. They come off. So it looks like when you took it out, it looks, oh, look, it has no fins, but it has scales. Until you see it underwater. When you see it underwater, you say, oh, look, it has little fins. Look, I'll give you the fins. Oh, I took them out. Oh, no, where's the fins? Oh, fins came off. So that's what some people thought that they found. They thought that they found some fish that have fins, scales but no fins. But in generally speaking, if there's something that the Torah says that this is the way it is, this is the way it is. There is no such reality. So you can say all you want, yeah, but what if, but what if, but what if? But again, that what if will only work on someone that's still trying to believe in the Torah. Someone that already believes in the Torah, there is no such circumstance as what if, because you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. All you need to know, as far as a proof that Hashem runs the world, is simply look at the creation itself. You'll see that some of the most famous atheists in history, the more they discover things about the details of creation, whether it be the makeup of the DNA, or the different types of species, or even simply the makeup of your eye, many of these atheists eventually became believers in Hashem. Many of them, even in recent history. There was a Chinese guy, I forgot what his name is, a very famous, or Asian guy, that was very, very famous, atheist for many, many years, but just recently, in the last 3, 4, 5 years, he says there has to be a hand. There has to be a creator. Now, he didn't become Jewish or anything like that, but he knows that there has to be a creator. So if there's a creator, that creator had to give us instructions. It cannot be that the creator created the world without giving us instructions. And there are countless items that you can use to prove that the only set of instructions that Hashem gave is the Torah. We have shiurim about it. There's a movie that Rabbi Mizrahi made. There's about 5 movies, short movies that we've made to show Torah proofs. Point being is that there is no such reality of something contradicting the Torah. Anytime you find some type of contradiction, it's simply because you don't understand it. But generally, once you understand it, you see what the truth really is. Next. Yes.
What existed before this world existed?
The Zohar doesn't give us, and Chachamim don't give us all the details in the world about what existed before, because it doesn't affect us. But the little bit that we do know, or a little bit that I know, is that there were 6 worlds before this. This is the 7th and final world. Each world had a mission. Each world got to its culmination point, got to wherever purpose it got to. This is the final world that has to achieve its purpose. The ultimate purpose will be declared that the end will be declared once the Mashiach comes. Mashiach comes, there'll be the last 1,000 years of this world, from the year, and then this world ends, and we go into a completely spiritual world. But there were 6 worlds before this, and this is the last one. Yes, in the back.
Why are women obligated to cover their legs? Something that's made sheer, that can only see the skin.
I can't hear you. Why are women obligated to cover their legs?
With something sheer, that can only see their skin.
If you could see their skin anyway?
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're not supposed to see their skin. You're supposed to cover. You're supposed to cover your body. First of all, you're supposed to cover your body, just to answer that question, because it's an obligation from Hashem. It's an obligation from the Torah for a woman to be modest. Now, the Gemara says in Masechet Sotah, Kol ha'isha erva, that everything in a woman that's typically covered, if it's uncovered, it's considered as if you're showing her nakedness. So what's typically covered? Typically covered throughout all of the generations until the last 150 years or so, all of the generations, the Jews, the non-Jews, everyone, walked around completely covered from head to toe, where typically the only thing that you would see in a woman, whether she was Jew or Gentile, would be her face, her hands, and her feet. That's how women walked around, whether it was in a desert, or in Europe, or in Asia, or anywhere in the world. That's how women walked around. You're not going to see any civilization that walked around naked, unless, I don't know, they're barbarians, but I'm talking about civilizations. Generally speaking, Jews and Gentiles have been modest throughout history for the most part, as far as their look on the outside. Inside is a different story. One of the things that is very, very interesting is when I went to some government building years ago in Florida, I think it was to get a passport or something, and I saw that they have old pictures of the beach in Florida. I think it was in Boca Raton or something like that, and they had a bunch of non-Jewish people on the beach, and you see how all of these non-Jewish women, what they're wearing to the beach. They're wearing gowns that are bigger than 3 times their own size, and they're more modest than the Rabbaniot of today. Why? Because the clothes didn't only cover the people, but it also covered the modesty was at such a high level that it covered the shape of the body. Meaning the women wore extra big clothes so you don't see the shape of their body. Why? Because you want to, only person that you should show your body and your beauty is someone that married you. That's what it's supposed to be. Now, the Chachamim say that anything that is supposed to be covered and is not covered is as if it's showing the nakedness. Meaning that whether a woman shows her armpit, or she shows her rib, or she shows her stomach, or she shows her thigh, it's the same thing as if she's showing the most private thing she has. In Hashem's eyes, that's what he says it is. Why? Because these things are supposed to be covered. Because as soon as a male sees these things, he immediately thinks about the next thing. He sees a thigh, he thinks about what's next to the thigh. He sees a rib, he thinks what's on top of the rib. He sees a armpit, he thinks immediately, a normal person thinks about the next thing. So now, a woman is supposed to cover her legs all the way that she's allowed to show 1/3 of her leg. Meaning that she's allowed to show just the bottom half of her calf to her feet. That's what she's allowed to show. Which means ideally, she should wear a dress that reaches her ankles. That's what ideally she should wear. But if she wears something that covers about 1/3 of her calf, and it shows 2/3 of the calf, and it shows the bottom third, that's still fine. That's still fine because that ankle area is still not considered erva, according to halacha. So, but if she covers that with tights, that's not covering at all. If she's covering it with some second layer of skin, that's not covering at all. Covering it meaning it has to be covered not just as far as fabric, but also as far as shape, and as far as that if I saw it from far away, I wouldn't be able to make up what's under it. That's what it's supposed to be. And the reason why is because it's for the sake of modesty. If a woman treats herself like she's the daughter of the King of Kings, she knows that the queen, the princess, doesn't walk around like everybody else. She walks around reserved, she walks around modest, she walks around where her beauty only belongs to her husband. Now, as far as women that don't do it, or as far as women that wear things that even cover their body. Let's say, for example, she wears a bodysuit. She's an X-Men. Okay? She wears a bodysuit. She covers her ankles. But it's a bodysuit. That's not covering at all. That's as if she's walking around naked. Meaning it's not just about covering the body with an actual layer of clothing, of fabric, but it has to be fabric that's covering the shape, covering the body, but also it's not fabric that pulls the eye. So it shouldn't be red, bright red. Other colors it's allowed. You don't have to wear black all the time. You can wear colors, there's no problem, but generally speaking, you should not wear clothes that has specific writing. Like if you have, let's say, for example, a shirt. One second. If you have a shirt, you shouldn't wear shirts with writing on it, especially as a woman. Why? Because people are going to constantly look at it. You don't want people to look at you constantly. You want to look okay. You want to look, like a decent human being. You don't have to look like you just came out of a garbage pail. No one says that. Even if you read the song Eshet Chayil that we sing on Friday, it says that the Eshet Chayil, the ideal woman, she was also beautiful. She wore something purple. So you're allowed to wear colors. You're allowed to have different shapes and so on. But you have to think also: is this going to bring attention to that specific body part? So don't wear something that has writing on your chest. or different other body parts. Don't walk around with some billboard on your behind. That's obviously, you have to just simply use your brain. Now, if you want people to look at you, then obviously it's defeating the whole purpose. You're supposed to be modest. It's supposed to, in essence, blend in. But you're allowed to wear colors. You're allowed to wear shapes. That's not a problem as long as it does not highlight specific body parts. That's the key. Yes?
And why do like religious people wear stockings? Like I never knew that we had to cover it with fabric. I thought also like sheer from under the knee.
Okay, so there's different minhagim, that different customs where people take on additional stringencies. So the halacha itself, the law is that a woman has to cover, like I said, the 2/3 of her leg, where pretty much the dress, the skirt, if you will, has to reach 4 to 6 inches below her knee after she sits down. Not after she pulls it down 50 times. Like that, even a mini skirt's going to reach the bottom of the knee. Talk about a skirt that's long enough that after she sits down, it still covers 6 inches below the knee, from the bottom of the knee. 6 inches that. Which means that she's standing up, it's even longer. Now, some customs wanted to make even an additional stringency, where they say that even the stuff that, the bottom part that you're allowed to see, they want to be even more stringent, especially the Hasidim, where the women are wearing stockings. They're wearing stockings, usually black stockings. Now, this is not a halacha, this is a minhag, this is a custom. If a woman walked around without stockings, but she covered exactly like I said, or more, it's perfectly fine. The ideal way, halachically speaking, is to wear a skirt or a dress that reaches all the way to the bottom of your ankles. That's the ideal. The minimum is what I'm saying. So, unfortunately, people always use the minimum as the default. You know, if the minimum is to reach 6 inches under the knee, then that's what I'll do. Well, when you ask for blessings from Hashem, do you want him also to give you the minimum? You want to eat, so he's going to give you a minimum of what you need to survive. He's going to give you a little crouton. That's all you need to survive. Oh, you're thirsty? I'll give you 1 sip. Oh, you need parnasah? I'll give you exactly $1. That's enough to eat for the day. What? What's the problem? Well, you can live. What? So that's what we have to think sometimes. Why are we constantly looking for the minimum? The ideal way is what we're supposed to shoot for, especially when it comes to things that Hashem loves and finds important, which is modesty for women. Modesty for a woman is more than 60% of her mitzvot. If a woman is not modest, it's impossible for her to go to heaven. Impossible, even if she fulfills all of the other mitzvot. Because if a woman is not modest, she's not only not fulfilling that mitzvah herself, she's constantly causing other people to sin. Because anytime a male looks at her, he's thinking about something, even if he doesn't touch her. Things go into his mind, you now become a partner to the sin. So it's very, very important for a woman to be modest. But again, modesty doesn't mean ugly. Modesty means you can still be beautiful, you can still be pretty. But there's a classy pretty and there's trashy pretty. Trashy pretty you have all over Florida, all over New York, all over the world. A bunch of girls walking around practically naked, they think that they're classy. All the billboards have them. All the streets have them. She walks around with like some piece of fabric she found on the street that covers just a few holes she has, and she walks around, oh, I'm classy. Oh, wow, you treat me like a queen. What queen? What queen? Queen of the garbage pail? What queen? You don't treat yourself like a queen. Why? Because you paid $500 for a piece of fabric to cover a couple of holes, you think you're a queen? Classy means you treat yourself like a queen. You're never going to see a real queen walk around with a bikini. Never. You're never going to see a queen walking around with a t-shirt. Never. So there's classy and there's trashy. Classy means that you cover yourself, you're reserved, but it's still beautiful clothes. It's still put together nicely. It still has a few colors. It's still something that looks reserved, but yet beautiful. That's what is expected of a Jewish woman. You're not expected to look like you just came out of the garbage pail and you're just wearing sacks all day. No one is telling you that. No one is telling you to wear sacks. You are allowed to wear nice clothes, but again, it always has to be modest. Modesty is superior to beauty. So if the only thing that you have modest is ugly, then wear the ugly clothes that's modest. But if the only thing that you have that is pretty is not modest, you're not allowed to wear it. Modesty is superior to everything else, if it's modest and it looks good at the same time, Baruch Hashem. That's what the song Eshet Chayil is trying to teach us every Friday night. The husband is supposed to sing to his wife. The Eshet Chayil is in essence talking about his own wife, and says that this Eshet Chayil, this amazing woman, she is wearing, she made herself a purple dress, purple clothing, meaning that it's beautiful clothes. She doesn't have to walk around like she came out of the garbage pail. She can look beautiful. She actually has to be beautiful. And there's even stories in the Gemara of some of the wives of the tzaddikim were very beautiful women. Very beautiful women. Like Rabbi Akiva's wife was extremely beautiful. Yes, the back.
Oh, so there's these two materials. I don't know which fabrics they are that can't be touching together. What's the reason why these two materials?
Oh, Shatnez. Shatnez. There's right. Shatnez. There's a couple of reasons that the Torah says. First off, the wool and linen is the first crime ever committed. First murder ever committed was committed by Cain, the son of Adam. So from that moment on, Hashem never, because this had to do with that crime, Hashem from that moment on said He never wants those two things together. Not that, I mean, you can wear certain clothes, just cannot be, you can't use the linen to tie the wool. You can't use it as the thing, or vice versa. But unless it's for a mitzvah. So for example, tzitzit is wool and linen, but it's allowed. The tzitzit that men wear is wool and linen. Talit is wool and linen. The Kohen Gadol's fabric, the Kohen Kodesh Kodashim, he's wearing constantly wool and linen. No problem. He's wearing Shatnez. Your tzitzit is Shatnez. But you're allowed. Why? Because it's for the sake of a mitzvah. Everything else is not for the sake of a mitzvah. Simply just wearing a jacket, if you buy suits, all the suits that you buy, you have to take it to somebody that will check it for Shatnez. And the reason why is because it's very common that they're going to use Shatnez, the wool and linen, together in the collar of suits. And some manufacturers, for example, like Hugo Boss, 100% of the time has Shatnez. So what happens when you have Shatnez? You don't have to throw it out. All you do is remove it. You remove it and you replace it. So you take it to the Shatnez rabbi that knows what to do. He takes it, he removes it, he gives you something to replace it. You take it to the dry cleaner puts something back in, and that's it. Finished. It's not such a big deal. But Shatnez is such a big deal in the eyes of Hashem that if you know that somebody's wearing Shatnez, meaning you know that his suit for sure has Shatnez in it, you know that he has something, you have to take it off of him, even if it's in the middle of the street. Even if it's in why? Because every single second that he's wearing it, he's making a sin from the Torah. Every single second. So that's why this wool and linen. And again, it's when it's woven together, not just generally. It's not like if it's the wool is here, the linen is over there. It's not a big deal. It's just that when it's together, and it's not for the sake of a mitzvah of tzitzit or kohen gadol. Yes.
You have to check every single clothes you buy.
I mean, generally speaking, there are certain things that that don't have it. Like, for example, sweatshirts that are just made out of cotton. You see 100% cotton, you don't have to check. But if usually the things that are that you would check are things that have wool in them, because wool is less common than linen. Linen is in many different types of clothing, but wool isn't. So when you have wool, many times you'll have a linen also. The question is it together? Is it together? So that's usually the main times. But some are will even tell you that you have to be stringent with everything and check everything, because many times the things that tell you the little tags don't necessarily tell you the whole truth, because by law they don't have to give you every single little detail. Meaning, if they use less than 1% of something, they don't even have to disclose it. So sometimes it's safer than sorry, but again, you also have to use your brain. As if you have a certain thing that's a t-shirt, it's not going to have wool in it. Your t-shirt's not going to have wool in it. Your sweatshirt's not going to have wool in it. Typically, your jeans is not going to have wool in it. So a lot of things are not going to have wool and linen in it, but there are certain things that are more common. Usually, suits will have wool and linen. Sometimes it's together, sometimes not. There are certain types of blankets that will have it, and so on and so forth. But generally speaking, you can look at the tag, see where it is. If there's wool, then definitely check. even if it doesn't have wool, but it's one of the things, like a suit, that is common enough to check, then go check it. Go check it. Go check the suit for guys. Every guy should check his suits. Don't wear the suit until you check it, because it's not worth it. And also, some manufacturers are known to use this type of fabric together. Then them, like I said, Hugo Boss. Hugo Boss is very common that they use it all. They do it all the time. Next, yes.
I don't want to change the topic too much, but
It's questions. Anything you want.
why has the world degenerated so much in the past 100 years, in the past century?
I mean, it's the Shlomo HaMelech says there's nothing new under the sun, meaning that on one end the world degenerated, on another end the world did not degenerate. Meaning it's the same thing, just different tests, or it's the same test, just a different way of taking it. The modesty that we have today always existed in some shape or form. It just was practiced differently. So yes, the clothing of today is very, very immodest and disgusting, and nothing in comparison to the clothing that they wore a couple of 100 years ago or before that. But as far as the promiscuity that you have today, always existed, even at the time of Noach. And Hashem destroyed the world because of that. The time of Avraham Avinu, Hashem destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah at that time. At the time of Rome, the Greeks, that their promiscuity was such a high level that homosexuality was common. Homosexuality was common. All the time you're going to see the Greek statues, they're constantly naked. There's a reason for that. So that type of promiscuity and behavior always existed. It's just that today it's not just promiscuity; it's also the fashion itself has changed. Reason why is because each generation deteriorates from the generation before it, and they learn less Torah, they understand less Torah, meaning that they're further and further from the truth, which means that the only way to save a person is by simply showing them the entire truth, and for them to learn and practice it. If a person doesn't know it, or even if he knows it, he ignores it, he treats it as if it's like an option, but not necessarily a obligation, then that person is going to live a life that's the opposite of the truth, opposite of Torah. But as far as sinners, as far as wicked people, all of that stuff has always existed. The test of promiscuity and things of that nature has always existed. The test of Chilul Shabbat always existed. Avodah Zarah always existed. It was just different forms and sizes. The Avodah Zarah, the desire for idolatry at the time of the Bet HaMikdash was so high that the tzaddikim all stopped what they're doing and prayed to Hashem to stop it, begging Hashem to remove this desire from the world, because they said there's no way that the generation can do tshuva from it. And they actually got it removed. So even though idolatry still exists, it's actually in a different form than it was back then. And the reason why is because the idolatry of the average person 2,000 years ago actually had much more results and much more impact on the world than the one today. The idols actually talked 2,500 years ago. Some of them even moved. Some of them actually were able to cure people. Hashem actually created enough power in them that he allowed them to do stuff as a form of a test. But the generation got so weak that they knew that if it continues, we're all going again, pretty much. It's not going to be any more Am Yisrael, Hashem Yachem. So they prayed and pleaded with Hashem to remove it. They also prayed for Hashem to remove the sexual desires, because the promiscuity was running rampant. Hashem fulfilled that prayer also. The problem is that they saw that Hashem is not going to pick and choose. You want it to remove? I'll show you that you need it. Why? They started seeing that even the chickens weren't laying eggs anymore. Meaning, you need to have the desire for sex in the world. You just need to know how to use it. All of the things that exist in the world, there's a need for them. You could do good and you could do bad. People that say, listen, you shouldn't use smartphones. I find it as the most ridiculous statement in the world. Not because smartphones are good, but because that's not the solution. Like some places in the world, in religious areas, especially in Eretz Yisrael, if you walk around, somebody sees you with a smartphone, according to their some of their crazy rabbis, they could take it from you and break it. According to the Torah, that's stealing. According to the Torah, it's stealing. Not allowed to do that. But somebody told them that they're allowed to do it. Why? Because, smartphone. If you have a smartphone, for sure you're going to look at pornography. For sure you're going to make sins. For sure you're going to do bad things. Why? Maybe I need it for work. Maybe I'm actually doing mitzvot with it. Like, don't assume that just because there's a certain tool, it's going to lead to a sin. Because that means if that's the case, then we shouldn't be allowed to leave the house. Why? You go into a car, you can use a car like a terrorist. Run over people. Why not? You could just take the car, just start running over people. Oh, it looks good in games. Some people like to do it in games. Like to run over people in the games. Right? So it's like one of the fun things to do in those video games, to run over people, right? So some people do it in real life. What? So what? Now you're not going to drive anymore? Oh, people say, no, you're going to cancel, don't allow guns. I'm like, okay, so you're going to stop your guns. The enemy's not going to stop his. So he'll conquer you next week. Oh, no, don't allow... there are certain things that you need to understand. There are tools in the world. If you're going to tell people, no, if you have a hammer, you can kill somebody. Yeah, but you could also use it to put a nail in the wall. You don't have to kill them. Point being is that you have to teach people right and wrong. Not just put them in a box and say no. But there are certain things that there is nothing good you can do with them. For example, television, there's nothing good you can do with it. Like if you're going to watch cable, there's nothing good that's going to come out of it. But the actual set itself, the box itself, or the flat screen itself, yeah, you can do plenty of good things with it. You could use it for programming to watch Shiur Torah. Or different teachings of Torah for your kids, or for yourself. You could use the screen. The screen itself, there's no problem with the screen. It's the programming that goes into the screen that's the problem. If it's cable, it's forbidden 100%. The Stipler Gaon says it's Avodah Zarah. To that extent. If it's cable, if it's regular news networks, all that stuff, it's considered Avodah Zarah. That's what the Stipler Gaon, the Rav Kanievsky's father. That's what he says. But if it's programming, where you're watching Shiur Torah, things that are educational, relevant to your spirituality, mitzvah. Mitzvah to have it. So that's, again, a tool. You can use the hammer to kill somebody. You can use the hammer to build a building. You can use a knife to cook a steak. You can use a knife like an Arab and kill people. It all depends. Every tool can be used for good or bad, but there are certain things that you can't use for good. There are certain things you can't use for good. Generally speaking, most things in the world you can use for good. Most things in the world you can use for good. Even a basketball that I told you guys the other day, you're not allowed to play on Shabbat, but during the week you can if you need exercise. As long as it's now you don't have any cheerleaders on the side. As long as it's you, a couple of friends, you want to shoot hoops a little bit for an hour or so to get some exercise, no problem. If it's on Shabbat, it's a problem. Regular week, you learned your Torah, you fulfilled your spiritual obligation, your financial obligation, all the other stuff. You still have an energy to go play basketball for a half hour, an hour, no problem. But don't make it an obsession. Exercise is good. Exercise is recommended even. But don't make it your life. Going to the gym, good. Being obsessed about the gym, bad. Going to a gym of male and female, forbidden 100%. Better off to die than to go to a place like that. It's areg val yavo. Going to the ocean as a mikveh, mitzvah. If there's women there, areg val yavo. Better if you die than go to a beach that has women there. The ocean themselves is the best water in the world to purify yourself. But if there's women there, nothing's going to purify you. Nothing's going to purify you. Some people say, no, my rabbi said that I should go to the mikveh. I said, where? He goes to the ocean. I said, where ocean? He goes, no, regular ocean. I said, your rabbi, maybe he's in a church. No, he's not a Jewish rabbi. Why? No real rabbi is going to tell you to go to mixed beach. Shem Echem. So, everything can be used for good, generally speaking. It's just that you need to know how to use it. You need to know how to use it. Even the internet. I love it to hear the most ridiculous statements from rabbis. I'd say, oh, the internet is the enemy. It's the worst thing in the world. It's this. Should shut it down. Where is he publicizing this? On the internet. It's on a YouTube video. He's telling you, don't watch the internet. It's the worst. Anyone that's going to use the internet is going to get... Buddy, I only found out this message from you on the internet. I didn't even know you existed. The internet is a tool. Cars are tools. Guns are tools. Doctors are tools. There are tools in the world. If you use them appropriately, it can even be a mitzvah to use them. If you don't, even a small little Q-tip can turn into an avera. Q-tip. Why? Just take the Q-tip and stick it in somebody's eye, just for show. Just to see what happens. Little Q-tip, nothing. What? Stick it in somebody's eye. It's avera. But you stick it into Yoni at the cleaning job. It's good. You understand? Everything could be used for good or bad. Don't just say no, no, no. Every moron can say no to everything. The point is to know how to use the tool that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us. Anything else? Yes.
In the final days of the Gog and Magog war, is that there will be an actual physical war amongst the nations and also a spiritual war?
The two always go along. There is every single thing in the world has a sal, has an angel that oversees it. So much so that every blade of grass has its own angel telling it to grow. Every blade of grass has an angel telling it to grow. That's how many angels there are. It's an infinite amount of angels. Every nation has a sal, has an angel overseeing it. And if there is a war here, physical war here, there's a war up there as well. The angels are fighting over there. You look at for example, one of the sources for this from the Tanakh is you look at the book of Daniel. Daniel had a best friend. Who was it? Malach Gabriel. Malach Gabriel was best friends with the prophet Daniel. And Malach Gabriel came to Daniel. He says in the Pesukim. He says, and he spoke to Daniel, and Daniel gave him chizuk. Showed him how he's doing mitzvot in a good way. Malach Gabriel says, Baruch Hashem, you gave me chizuk. Now I'm going to go bring Malach Michael, and now we're going to win the war. Now we're going to win the war. What war? War up there in Shamayim. Why? Because there's a war here, there's a war there. But you gave me chizuk. Because you're doing mitzvot, and because you're serving Kadosh Baruch Hu, you gave me strength. Now we're going to win the war up there. Point being is that everything that happens here, there's something going on over there. Now, as far as the war of Gog and Magog, it's mentioned a few places in the Torah. The prophet Zechariah chapter 14 gives very, very horrific details of what's going to happen, such as the fact that right away, within the initial moments of the war officially breaking out, like this, the war already began a long time ago. The Chafetz Chaim says there's 3 parts to Gog and Magog. We've already had the first 2, World War I, World War II. Now, the war itself is fought for a long time, but the official, the climatic part of the war, that part, Chachamim say, is going to last less than 9 minutes. Or 9 minutes. And during that 9 minutes, just to start off, 2/3 of the world will die. And the last third that remains will be tested. Tested how? The prophet says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling him that they'll be tested like you refine gold. You know, when you take gold itself is never 100%. Even if you go to the Federal Reserve. One time I took a bunch of clients to the Federal Reserve. They want to see a bunch of gold bars behind the wall. So you see billions of dollars, $200 billion worth of gold just sitting there doing nothing. And every day for show, every day somebody says, "Oh, this is the gold. This is the gold." Tourist attraction. Nothing actually happens. Once every couple of months, they told us themselves. Once every couple of months, they move, a few bars from the gold of, let's say, Belgium, and they move it to America, or America, and they move it to. Nothing actually happens. It's not really used. It's just for show. Because gold is not backing any dollars anymore. It's just it's just simply a possession that you can have, assuming that someone will pay you more money for it in the future. But it has no intrinsic value other than that. Now, when you see those bars, none of those bars say 100% gold. It always says 99% or 98%. It's a very high number, but it's never 100%. Why? It has to have a little bit of another metal in order for it to be that hard. So, when you refine it though, when you refine gold, let's say for example, if you go to these gold stores, all these We Buy Gold stores, okay, you tell them, listen, I want to sell a bracelet that my grandmother gave me 30 years ago. I don't have any use for it. My arm is about 3 times the size, so I want to sell it. Oh, you give him a gold bracelet. It's okay, let me see how much gold is in it. He's going to tell you how many carats, this, and then he's going to melt it. Why? Because it's not 100% gold. All he's interested in is the gold part. He cares less about the metal. The metal's worthless. He wants the gold. So he's going to take a bunch of gold that he buys from people. Now, and then take it to a place where they're going to melt the gold and actually remove the metal from the gold, from all of these things, and get it closer and closer, the closest possible to 100%. But still, it's always going to have a little bit. Now, that refining process is very, very interesting. You can see things on the internet about it. It's very, very interesting. It's like lava. But the point is that you'll see that to refine the gold and remove all of the other extras that give this jewelry piece its shape, its density, and so on and so forth, it's, wow, there's a lot more than you thought. There's a lot more of that garbage that's worthless than you thought. It's not like you thought, wow, it's a gold bracelet. You found out that it's like 5% bracelet. It's 5% gold, 95% garbage. But point is that the gold is the only thing that's worth it. That refining process is intense. It's lava. It's 3,000 degrees. Hashem says the last third of people that remain, the first third, gone. First 2/3 gone. The last third will be refined like gold. Meaning everybody will be put up to the test and everyone will have to choose a side. Are you with me or not? Now what does that mean? Everybody going to be given an opportunity for the first time then? No. You would have already had to make the choice. Today, tomorrow, well before the Gog Magog. Why? If you think that you're going to make the right choice at that day, but not before, you're delusional. You would have already had to start doing tshuva and fixing yourself and serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning that you've prepared and trained yourself that when that day comes, Be'ezrat Hashem, you have the spiritual strength to overcome the big obstacle, the big test, and make the right choice. Why? Because it's going to be a very difficult choice. It's not going to be an easy one. It's not going to be, oh, if you're Jewish, and it's going to be okay. Oh, if you say Shema Yisrael, you go to Beit Knesset a few times a day, it's okay. No, it's going to be a very difficult test. So that last third is it has to get tested. And the thing is, though, is that that's why the Chachamim, Rabbi Eliezer ben Holkinos, in the Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin, says that I want Mashiach to come, but I don't want to be alive when it happens, because of how difficult the time is going to be when that happens. Point being is that it's going to be a big war, a physical war, a spiritual war. It's not going to be a walk in the park in any way, shape, or form. But if you cling to a Kadosh Baruch Hu now, and do it every day, do a little bit more tshuva, every day improve yourself a little bit more, you'll have nothing to worry about. Why? Because you're training for game day now. But if you're not going to train, and you're not going to do anything, and simply going to wing it, then most likely not only will the person not make the right decision if push comes to shove, but most likely they won't even be part of that last third either. They'll simply be part of that default 2/3 that disappear into nothing. So it's, people talk about Mashiach a lot because it's very exciting, it's unknown, but you'll see that many of the real big Chachamim rarely talk about it. At most they talk about it once a year, once every few years. And the reason why is because the more you know about it, and I don't mean know about it in a sense like you know about the topic, the more you believe, you know it like I know you're in front of me. I don't believe it. I know for sure you're in front of me. No one in the world they could call me right now on the phone. No. Joshua's not in front of you. I'm not going to believe him. Where can I see you? So the more you know about it, the more scary it is. I'll give you an example. Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom, Sukkot is a time that people talk about Mashiach. The Geulah, salvation, so on. So he talked about Mashiach. One of the people in his Keilah called himself religious, but was stupider than he thought. Why? He decided to interrupt the Gdol Hador and say one of the dumbest things that you could possibly say. What did he say? It's like, come on, Rabbi, why are we waiting for this Mashiach B'chlal? It's Busha for Am Yisrael, this Mashiach. Moshe Feinstein says, what? Busha for Am Yisrael? Melech? What? Torah says he's a melech. What are you talking about? He goes, no, come on, Rabbi, let's be real. Talk. This guy is a busha, he's an embarrassment for us. Look where he came from. His grandmothers had sex with their father. Lot, when Mashiach comes, from Lot and his daughters. Ruth the Moaviyah, she was from Moab. One of Lot's daughters was the Moab. Both the father and the mother's side problematic. So he said, no, come on, he's coming from this embarrassment for us. This guy is not even a kosher Jew. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says to him, don't say that. Don't say things like that. No, come on, Rabbi, I say whatever's in my heart. I'm real. I'm emet. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says to him, be careful how you talk. Don't say things like that. This stubborn idiot continued his way. Said that some people, they like to hear themselves talk. And if you don't hear them, they make a big scene out of it. They want to make sure you heard him. This guy, all that's remembered is a story about him. Why? The next morning, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein himself said this story. The next morning, he comes to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein in the Bet Midrash, and literally his face is white like the ceiling, abnormally white. He's sweating profusely and crying at the same time, like he saw some shed. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says, no, gives him water. What happened? You okay? You okay? What happened? What happened? You need to help me. You need to help me. What? What happened? Because last night, after the whole thing happened, I went home. I went to sleep. And two old women came to me in my dream. Both of these women were made out of fire. They were made out of ember. They were fire. Spiritual fire. And they both said to me, Kalomi Tabayesh, you should be ashamed of yourself. This is how you talk about us? I said to them, who are you? He says, we're the daughters of Lot. How are you talking about us? He says, no, but it goes, no. We did what we did because we thought that the world ended just like it did at the time of Noach. So we're trying to do a mitzvah to repopulate the world. We weren't doing it for sin purposes. Okay, I'm sorry. He goes, no, we're suing you. We're suing you. We press charges. We're suing you in the Bet Din of Shamayim. The lawsuit, we got the date. 30 days from now, you're going to have to meet us in Shamayim. The guy tells the rabbi the story. He says, you have to help me. What am I going to do? Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says, I can't help you. He goes, no, what am I can't help you. That's something that's in Shamayim. He died. And this is the story that Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said is Alvaya. They were burying him. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said, this is the story. This is what happened exactly. You remember everything that happened a month ago. He said it. He came to me the next day. This is what happened. So, a person that understands, the more a person understands the details of how much simple words count in heaven, is going to worry his whole day, his whole night. The beginning of wisdom is fear of Hashem. Why? Because if this guy's silly comments meant that much that Hashem simply, literally took his life early as a result of it, then needless to say, at the time of Mashiach, at the time of anything, a person, every single word, every single action, every single look, every single thought that a person has, it's counted in Shamayim. It's counted, it's calculated. Yes?
What do you mean by a lawsuit? Like, how do they make a lawsuit in Shamayim? Isn't a law, like a law, a human concept? Like, how does that work in heaven?
No, the entire Torah is a book of laws. The entire Torah, every halacha is a law. Every law and every halacha in the Torah, for example, not allowed to light fire on Shabbat, that's a law. The whole concept of laws and courts comes from the Torah. Even the court system that you see today, for example, that was created by Yitro. Yitro came to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was the king, and he would judge every case on his own. Yitro came to him and goes, what are you doing to yourself and to the nation? You can't judge everything by yourself. You have to have a court system. Certain type of people that judge courts of 1,000. So another type of person that judged the courts of hundreds and then 50s and so on and so forth. In essence, he gave him the details of how the judicial system works till this day. That's not a secular invention. That's a Torah invention. The whole legal system of today is a Torah invention. So Supreme Court, the lower court, and so on and so forth. So everything in the Torah, it's a book of laws. But every halakha is called a law. It's a law. It's just that's a translation. So there is a bed din here, and there is a bed din in heaven. Meaning, there's a bed din needs 3 Jews. Sometimes, if it's a Talmid Chacham, it could be 1 Jew. 1 Jew could be a judge of a certain case. If there's 2 people that have a difficulty, if there's a Talmid Chacham that's reliable, he could be the bed din by himself. But if it's a bigger case, then you need a bed din of a couple of people. Point is that there is that's the bed din. But there's also a bed din in Shemaim. A bed din is a Jewish court in Shemaim that decides different things based on the law. So it's if something happens here, it affects heaven. It affects heaven. If somebody does something here, it affects heaven. And anytime, for example, we pray for Hashem for mercy. Now, sometimes you're going to see somebody doing something in order to get mercy from Hashem. So, for example, it says, tzedakah tetzil mimavet. You give tzedakah, it could save your life. So, somebody could do something. For example, there's a decree in heaven for a person to die. Worst possible decree. But that person decides that he's going to give a large amount of tzedakah. He doesn't know he doesn't know there's a decree that he's going to die. Maybe he's sick, maybe he's not. But he decides to take a bunch of money that he has and he's going to use it for Torah purposes. He's going to, give a big donation to Kiruv. He's going to help people do tshuva, or so on and so forth. He's going to help a bunch of poor people. He gives tzedakah. That tzedakah now changes the case. It gets reviewed again. Why? Because the case was reviewed and judged without that tzedakah. That tzedakah now is reevaluating the case. In Shemaim, they say, okay, so now, does he still deserve death penalty or not? Says, yes, he still deserves death penalty, but since he gave tzedakah, we'll give him more time to do tshuva and change the circumstances. So that's what in essence means tzedakah tetzil mimavet. We see it many times in the Torah. One of the proofs that we see is the story of Rabbi Akiva's daughter. Rabbi Akiva's daughter was a tzadikah and a big Baal Chesed. She loved to give to everything that she had. And on the day of her wedding, she, the tradition is that on the day of the wedding, you fast. You don't eat. And you eat at the wedding. So the whole day you're fasting. You go to the mikveh, purify yourself, you don't see the groom, and pretty much not the groom, the wife or the husband eat the whole day until they finally get to the wedding. And that's why the room of yichud, is really the way they eat for the first time together. But anyway, that's in essence the tradition. So now, the story goes, Gemara says that she fasted the whole day, and then finally when she got to her room to eat by herself, she was going to eat herself, all of a sudden somebody knocked on her door. And she opened the door, who is it? She saw some poor person came to look for food, for help, and he happened to come to her room. So she didn't have any money to give him, so she just gave her her food. She gave him food. She gave him food, thank you very much, hasn't eaten in a few days, and then she decides, you know what, let me just relax, and she takes out the pin in her head, and she decides to put it in the wall, to hold it in place, so it's not, you don't step on it and break it or so on. She took a fancy pin, and she stuck it in the wall. And that's it. Later on, Rabbi Akiva comes to see his daughter, and he takes out the pin out of the door, he sees that on the other side of the wall was a poisonous snake that was going to enter the room and kill his daughter. And that pin killed the snake. Meaning there was a decree in heaven that she was going to die, but because she did mesirut nefesh, she made a sacrifice of giving food even though she was really hungry. She didn't just give food, hey, here's a shawarma sandwich, good luck, that's going to save my life. No, she did something that was difficult. She gave everything. She was starving. But she said, no, I'll starve for even longer. Why? He's probably worse than me. So it's not just the kite sacrifice, it saved her life. It saved her life. And there's other examples like that across the board in the Torah. Which means that the Bet Din and Shamayim is constantly reviewing the case. In the end, Hashem is the only one that decides what is going to be the ultimate outcome. But you have the tzaddikim of each generation that sit on this Bet Din. And that's why many times that you hear near-death experience stories, people that died and came back to life, some of them tell you that they went to a Bet Din. And many times they'll tell you who was the Dayanim. And even though many of these people that have near-death experiences were never religious, they never saw any of these people, but they remember who these people are. And they'll tell you, oh, there was one guy that was named Ben Ishchai, and there was another one, Ovadia, and there was another one, Chazonish. Who are these people? He's the Gdolei Ador. He's the biggest giants. Oh, yeah, it was this guy. Who is this guy? Oh, it's a Stipler. Oh, yeah, I saw him in a Bet Din. I saw him in heaven. Yeah, he's the Gdolei Ador. Oh, he's your grandfather? No, he's one of the biggest tzaddikim. So many of these people that have near-death experience, they see these dayanim, these tzaddikim in the Bet Din of Shamayim, and they're judging for them. They're judging for them. So there's many stories like that, and it's very, very interesting. But the point is that there is a Bet Din here, there's a Bet Din there. And last thing I would say about it is that if there is a judgment made here, by a Bet Din here, the same decision is made in heaven. Meaning that the Bet Dins here have a lot of power. If they make the wrong choice, that choice is same thing is made up there. They make the right choice is over there. Meaning that the Bate Din have significant power. And that's why the Gemara says that destruction comes to the world when the rabbis that make up Bet Din are liars. And they change the truth in order to make money or to sue themselves. Unfortunately, that's happening often now. There's rabbis that make up Bate Din and they're simply liars. Like, for example, conversion Bet Dins, a lot of them are problematic. There's a lot of politics in conversion, and that's needed, but it's too far in some cases. To some extent that in some places they pretend, oh, no, you need to have $25,000 to convert. Why? I mean, I understand it costs the Bet Din some money for their time, for their expertise, but $25,000? $25,000? Why? That's the only way you have to be rich in order to be a Jew? Like, what if I'm not rich? I can't become Jewish? So what would Ruth do? Ruth was homeless. I understand, $1,000, $2,000, fine, your time you spent, whatever, but $25,000, $10,000? Some of these places, Hashem Yachem. And they care less. They care less if the person even knows mitzvot. So this politics happen, unfortunately. And also other things. I went to a Bet Din one time, and simply because they didn't want to deal with the headache. They just simply said to me, listen, just give him what he wants, because you're a rabbi. I'm like, what do you mean I'm a rabbi? But I'm right. What do you mean? He's wrong. Yeah, but, what kind of Bet Din is this? Hashem Yilachem. What, you negotiating for him? So what? Sometimes it's no, what? No, come on. So, but Bet Din, if it's a righteous Bet Din, if it's a good Bet Din, Baruch Hashem, it creates kedusha in the world. If it's a bad one, Hashem Yachem. Anything else? Last one. No, same price. Last one.
Sometimes wicked people means after crossing things like that, they plant traps in front of you and they disguise themselves pretty well.
Okay.
How can you identify somebody like that so that you don't fall into a trap, or how can you identify that if they're? I mean, only Hashem knows if they're righteous or wicked, but how can you identify?
How can you identify if somebody's wicked? I mean, simply said, choose your friends carefully. Choose your friends carefully. Rashi said, even further, says if you want friends, buy a Sefer Torah. Meaning, buy a Sefer, learn Torah. That's your friends. The commentary, the Arizal, the Rambam, the Ben Ishchai. Those are your friends. Why? People, if they're alive, So generally speaking, the whole social need that people have to have friends, to be in a clique, to hang out on weekends, go on vacations. That stuff doesn't generally exist in the Torah world. Yes, you could have a friend, a chavruta, and so on, but you'll see many, many times that the tzaddikim, the people that are not even just the gdolados, just like people that are just trying to live a righteous life, they don't have the need, or desire, or even ability to have like a slew of friends like your average person has in the world, because their life is busy. Either they're working, or they're learning, or they're with their family. They're working, or they're learning with their family. There's just no time for this friends. Let's go out on the weekends type of thing. Yes, you have people that you're social with, maybe your next door neighbor, maybe your chavruta here and there, but there's not that much. So already, by living a Torah life, you limit your exposure to people to a certain extent. But even so, you're still going to be exposed to people. So you have to pick people carefully. First and foremost, you should only get close to people that are following a life of Torah and mitzvot. Don't think that you're going to be able to be friends with a bunch of secular people because you've been friends with them for 20, 30 years and still be religious, which is unfortunately one of the things that a lot of Baalei Tshuva do, and sometimes even religious people do, is that they have a bunch of friends that are secular under the foolishness that they think, no, I'm going to make them do Tshuva. I'm going to make them do Tshuva. No, they're all secular. Yeah, I'm just hanging out with them, so I'm going to influence them over time. Eventually what happens is that they influence you. You want to influence them, bring them to a shiur. That's the influence. That's the only thing you can do. To go and hang out with them, go play basketball, go to games with them, all that stuff, live their life, it's never going to work, and eventually it's Yetzirah is winning. So you have to pick your friends carefully. You have to pick people, to have people around you that have a similar ideology to you. Now you can associate with people that have a different ideology in order to help them come closer to the Torah, but that's just associate with them, not befriend them, not hang out with them, not go have dinner with them, not celebrate with them. You can associate with people, but as far as to get people that are close to you, friends, that's people that have to fall into a certain definition, which means that they have to have a similar ideology to you. They have to have a common purpose. It has to be somebody that they don't necessarily need to agree with everything that you think. The Torah is full of machloket, full of debates, but the general direction of their life should be similar to yours. It cannot be he's Christian and you're Jewish. It cannot be. It cannot be that he's an atheist and you're an Orthodox Jew. It cannot be. Why? Because it's the opposite. It's the opposite. Like there was an article that somebody sent me, and I didn't read it, but it's the title of the article. Look how beautiful. She is a secular woman and he's Hasidish. And they're happy together. All he is wearing a costume. That's all he is. All she is she doesn't feel like wearing a costume. She's more real than him. Why? She doesn't feel like watching mitzvot. He's pretending. Why? If you're religious, you cannot be with a secular woman. Why? If she's secular, she doesn't want to go to mikveh. She doesn't want to mikveh. You're not allowed to touch her. So what do? Can't do nothing. She's mechalel Shabbat. You can't eat her food. You can't be with her. You can't eat her food. What are you going to do with her? Play tennis? What are you going to do with her? You can't be married. So it's people live a delusional life. You have to have similar ideology. The ideology is key. If you have similar ideology, you can build huge spiritual and physical buildings together. If your ideologies are the opposite, or contradict each other, Hashem Yerachem, what kind of chorban you're going to make. Anybody can get married. You can get married to this chair if you want. But as far as a happy marriage, a successful marriage, that takes similar ideology. So as far as friends also, that's a form of marriage as well. To pick your friends, you have to decide, is this person worth to invest in? And you could tell pretty much who that person is, to at least to a certain extent, within 5 minutes. If within the first 5 minutes you're talking some chidush you found in the Torah, or something that you learned today, oh, Moshe Rabbeinu said this, oh, the rabbi said this, oh, said this, that's what you want to talk about. And his response is, do you really think the Phillies should hire this catcher next year? You think that this hockey player, you think Wayne Gretzky is the best hockey player, or do you think the guy from today is the best? Do you think this soccer player is the best kicker, or do you think, if that's what he talks about, that's what you talk about? Obviously, this is not common. This is a problem. There's a friction here. If all is in his brain is soccer ball, and your brain is Torah, it's not gonna work. You can befriend him as far as like, you know, being a associate of some kind, have a conversation, try to encourage him to change that, you know, soccer ball with the Sefer Torah. But to befriend him, you cannot be until he changes. Cannot be until he changes. Why? Because it's risky. It's risky to you. So you have to pick your friends carefully. If you pick your friends carefully, that means that you're going to weed out a lot of the wicked people. But you're never going to be able to weed out all of the wicked people. All of the wicked people exist. And Hashem will send them to you as a form of test, as a form of different things that you're going to have to endure in your life. You're going to do business? I can tell you I've done business with countless people in my life. I have yet to find one honest business person. One. I mean, I've done business with, I don't know, thousands of people. Thousands. Business investments, business as vendors, bought stuff, sold stuff, all types of things. Any business, millions and millions of dollars in business. I cannot recommend a single person I can tell you, that guy's honest. Not one person. One I'm talking about. One, nothing. They were, sometimes, many of them were honest in the beginning, but then they show their real colors. Just when it comes to money, it's just genom. I'm telling you, it's garbage. And I'll finish with this, and then we'll go home. You guys get some rest. When a friend of mine, Talmid Chacham in Eretz Yisrael, sent me this. It's a fantastic example. He says that Rabbi Yisrael Misalant was constantly teaching, learning Torah, and so on. But he said one time something clever. He says, you see, anyone that's a rabbi, so they get constant questions from people. And they're going to ask him questions about Tarat Mishpacha. They're going to ask him questions about Shlom Bayit. They're going to ask him questions about ideology, philosophy, proofs, all types of questions. But when it comes to Choshen Mishpat, that section of the Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat is about business. He says, every rabbi will tell you, I rarely ever get questions about this. How come? How come? He says, people decide, when it comes to business, everybody wants to be their own dayan. Everybody wants to be their own judge. You don't ask the rabbi. Why? Because in reality, you know that the rabbi is going to tell you you're wrong 90% of the time. You're a thief. You're a thief. So that's the thing. If you stick to the Torah, you're not going to have too many problems as far as the friends part, because you're going to be very selective. But as far as enemies, as far as wicked people, unfortunately, it's always going to exist. You just, with the Torah, it's going to help you, react to it a different way than you do without the Torah. Beseder Rabotai, Tiskul Mitzvot. B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow we'll publicize the timing of the Shiur that's going to be here on Sunday. B'ezrat Hashem for Tisha B'Av. Remember, the fast is not a suggestion; it's an obligation for every Jew, unless you are sick or pregnant and you meet certain requirements. But aside from that, it's an obligation for all of Am Yisrael to do tshuva. It's a fantastic day to do tshuva. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.